Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Jeff Marchiafava.
Hey!
And Jeff Cork.
Hey!
Got a real live Jeff party here to talk about our new cover story,
Yeah.
Days Gone on the PlayStation 4. It's an exclusive. I'm sorry, Xbox fans. Hopefully we'll talk about State of Decay
Come
2
back
soon.
next week.
Yeah, for sure. But we were on that cover story trip.
It's true.
We got to play a lot of the game.
We did.
We have a lot of information to roll out, so we'll share some exclusive impressions from that. That'll be a great time. After that, things are getting more serious and more nerdy in a good way. Talking about Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. Matt Miller's going to come on the podcast, talk all about it. Ben Reeves should be here to talk about a game called 2 Point Hospital, which is like a theme hospital-inspired game. Some would say, Cork, it's a love letter.
Some would say that. A mash note, if you will.
Homage.
Yeah, and then a little bit about Destiny 2, and then we have some wonderful community emails. But I think even before community emails, we have a surprise guest. Rue from Ready at Dawn, the studio that made The Order. But in this case, most importantly, the PSP God of War games.
Yeah.
I always wonder, like, if you've worked on a franchise, and very few people have directed God of War games, what would you think of that new God of War?
Yeah,
And so we
that's a good
Skyped him
question.
in just for a quick little chat about his thoughts on that new game, the origins of those original PSP games.
Yeah.
This is Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, if you recall. But he has some interesting insight to share about working with Sony, working with that character, what he thinks about the new direction, everything like that. And I know it's...
Did he hate it?
I don't want to spoil anything,
Okay.
but no,
Yeah.
believe it or not, he loves it a lot.
You didn't let that surprise breathe very long, did you?
I ain't no host. But it's nice. Like, I love having smart people just check in every once in a while on the podcast. It's kind of a shorter interview, but just to say hi. Hey, here's what I think of this. Okay, bye. So it's a fun chat with him.
Until
also,
then, here's a bunch of Jeffs.
yeah. No, it's not a bunch of Jeffs. It's a bunch of info about Days Gone. So Days Gone, new cover story from Game Informer. We went out to Sony Bend, played a lot of it. I was surprised. You both like open world games.
It's true.
Yeah. And you went in, played the game. You both left. Surprisingly positive, I would say, about the experience.
Yeah.
What was the most standout thing?
I think, for me at least, how cohesive everything seems to be. And again, we've only... Well, we played a bunch, I think, for a cover story, but I mean, a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to like evaluate the narrative in like broad sweeping terms, but it seems as though more thought has gone into creating something that kind of holds up consistently with both the campaign missions and then also like some of the side content than you might experience in other open world games. So,
Is it as simple as, because one of the messaging things I thought was really interesting is like, hey, it's kind of a smaller team. We are, as they phrase it, a destination-based game. Don't expect Far Cry levels of side activities in the open world. Is that what makes it hold together better in your mind? Is just that, like, you know, the open world is going to be stuff to explore, biking around, but primarily it's you're going from point to point to point.
I think that's part of it, but I think it's also more so the tone. And when you said that both Cork and I really like open world games, I think we both went into this with a little bit of fatigue, especially coming off of Far Cry 5, of just like the rote formula that we have for open world games and the activities that you do in them. And I think my biggest surprise was that it did feel different enough from all the other open world games that I've been playing recently that I wanted to play more of it and I was more interested in it. And part of it is that destination stuff and not just doing the same kind of activities each place that you go and, you know, like picking up random crafting items every 5 feet and stuff like that. But more so was the tone and kind of the difficulty of when you're running around in this world and everything is trying to kill you. You can't approach it in this, you know, in kind of like the playground sense that you would a Far Cry game or something.
But in the
like
same
that.
sense, okay, just to play devil's advocate a little bit here, we're talking about, the world's trying to kill you. It's a big message from them. It's like, isn't that just Far Cry games? There's a cougar that's going to come out and attack me or a bear at any second. Like, what's the difference in your mind with this game?
The difference is when we played through Far Cry, I think, you know, we played like 20 hours and I think we, you know, died a handful of times because you get to the point where it is kind of this playground where you have a huge arsenal. It's, you know, super easy to shoot anything that's coming at you and you might run into the random bear or something like that. But enemies in most open world shooters are easy to handle in a way that I don't think is true in Days Gone.
Because at any moment you can encounter even a horde, which is the big thing they showed at E3 2016, where it's hundreds and hundreds of zombies, as they call them, freakers. But freakers, we
Let's
can
just
say.
call them the
freakers.
infected. because that's what they all like. Another faction within that universe calls them the Infected.
Okay.
I've slowly moved toward that.
Okay, goodbye freakers. We'll just refer to them as the Infected. But huge masses of these things. And the interesting thing is they have it all simmed out to some extent, where they said like the Horde will actually roam around and eat and sleep, which is a bizarre idea to come across a bunch of napping Infected.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and they're not like, it's not just the Horde lives here. Like there are a bunch of different hordes throughout the world that you can kind of stumble into too. So it's not like one single unit.
Yeah, and then even beyond the Infected, freakers, zombies, is something interesting is just the idea of they are designing this game to have you be ambushed quite a bit. And it's a weird thing, but a dynamic ambush system, right? So it's kind of a cool idea in theory, where it's like you'll have your go-to route, leaving like one of the main towns, let's say. Like, all right, I always leave this way, da-da-da-da-da. And then one of the times you'll just be biking and then look up on the side of the hill like, what is that? And some real jackasses, Rippers, most likely, which is like an enemy human faction in the game, they will have like a truck that they'll just like roll down the hill and it'll plow into you when you're on your motorcycle. You'll go flying off. Or like as we saw in E3 last year, have like the wire across the road that you won't see coming. Just little weird things that in theory will constantly throw you off your game.
Right. And if you don't like getting nearly decapitated by ropes that are suspended like between trees across the road, if you take out these ambush camps in a particular area, it will reduce the number of times that those kind of scenarios will play out.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you know, you're kind of leaving a hole in the ecosystem for more Infected to move in because they're not being challenged by like humans. So it's kind of a, I don't want to say like a Monster Hunter style ecosystem, but I mean like it's just an ecosystem.
Well, to be fair, they do call it the freakosystem. Like it's back to concept of freakers. Yes. Okay. So there's that always going on as well. I think overwhelmingly the sense that I got from this game is like this is a game for people who like a little bit of maintenance in their games. Like I remember some people complain about like Breath of the Wild. But like, I just don't want all these meters and have to constantly feed myself all that stuff. And it's not like a full sim. It's not like a State of Decay 2. But just that level of like, you're going to have to really care about your bike. It can get damaged if you feel like being a hot rod and going off jumps, which there are a surprising amount of jumps in the game. But if you constantly want to go off those, you will damage your bike. And then you'll have to find scrap metal to repair it out in the field. So it's setting up those tense situations.
And you need fuel as well. And you have to kind of take that into consideration so that you don't get stranded somewhere. And if you do get stranded out somewhere, then you're on foot and you actually have to go back to some place and then have to go back and get your bike. You can't just, you know, as they said, you can't just drive your bike into a lake and then, you know, instantly respawn it behind you or something. You have to actually take care of it.
Right. You can't whistle for your bike, as the director Jeff Ross said at some point. Yeah.
Exactly. I think like people are going to draw comparisons where they're going to draw comparisons.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely more along the lines of a State of Decay, not just because of the freakers, Infected, zombies, elements like that, but I think just the focus on being more patient, kind of evaluating a scenario rather than like something like Far Cry, which we keep bringing that up. That's more of like a gonzo fun, just having a crazy time. This is more of a, like, you'll find yourself completely overwhelmed frequently if you decide you're just going to run into a camp and go crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Comparing it to State of Decay is so natural because that game's coming out very soon. We all have it in the forefront of our minds. We're fans. And so, but the twist is much less sim. And I think the angle where I left this trip or had a big impression on this trip was, you know, maybe there is room for a more story-focused open world zombie experience. I feel like we've had a fair amount of those, even between Dead Rising, State of Decay, you know, just to name a few. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if anyone's really focused narratively on an open world zombie game to the degree that Sony Bend is trying to do this time. And that is, even if it's, you know, somewhat well-worn territory, that is a new push for this overall genre.
You're also fighting lots of dudes also. So it's not just zombies, infected freakers.
And I loved, we put up the first hour of the game. It's on GameInformer.com now if you want to check it out. But I loved in that there's even an encounter early on where there's like some enemy humans. And I love that they try and reason with you. Yeah. They're not just like maniacs out of their minds. Like some people are like, hey, we have a lot of food. Like, I don't know who you are shooting at us, but you should come join us instead. Yeah. That's a cool little touch.
I suspect you can't really do that, though.
I suspect that's not actually an option. It's not that much of a sim in the game. But I was also really struck on this trip just how, maybe this is a weird comment, how sincere those developers are. I think like a lot of people at E3 2016, maybe Twitter in the gaming press is just too snarky, but a lot of people are like, all right, Sons of Anarchy meets Walking Dead. Here we go. Okay. And then we get there and they're like, yeah, Sons of Anarchy meets Walking Dead. It's awesome. It's like, yeah, that's that. They are not shying away from like, that was the inspiration, was like slamming these two things together, and they're embracing it in a big way.
And also there was a lot of snark of just, another developer cashing in on zombies and trying to do another open world game. And when you talk to them, like they said, this was their first idea of when they had the blank slate of what kind of game we want to make. This is what they wanted to do, and they are clearly all very passionate about it.
Yeah, and it's amazing that Sony is funding it and getting behind it in a big way and not blinking. Just like, all right, you guys want to make open world post-apocalyptic game, Way of Last of Us, but feel like it's different enough? All right, let's go for it. Bikes are an interesting angle. And the bike overall, what did you think of it, Cork, navigating around on that thing?
I think at first I was like, this seems like a very strange vehicle. Like, I've not been a huge fan of Daryl in Walking Dead. I thought his ridiculous motorcycle just made me want to throw up every time I saw it. Could be the SS logo on the side of it, but
who can say?
We don't want to get in the weeds on that. But after, like, in the very beginning, you watch the opening of the game, you see, obviously motorcycles are able to navigate in areas that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. And then, like, the roads are blocked with cars. There are tunnels you have to go through. So it does make a lot of sense for the motorcycle to be a big part of it. And what I like about it is that you're not constantly getting new motorcycles and other vehicles. Like, apparently Deacon St. John he forgot how to drive a car, so that's never an option for him. He's just his motorcycle, like, and you as a player, that is your vehicle that you will be upgrading throughout the experience. But you're not going to have like a fleet that you could choose from, like, I want the sporty bike for this particular mission, or this one I got to chase someone down, I want acceleration and top speed. It's the motorcycle that you are upgrading.
Right. And I love that idea of getting super attached to something, to constantly have to worry about this other object. I know if you don't like a lot of maintenance in the game, it might not be your thing, but I think there is something unique about spending so much time with one vehicle, slowly upgrading it throughout the course of the game, trying to take care of it. Like we mentioned going off jumps, but there's even a slight excite bike-ish element where like you can like balance out the bike, so before you land, like the smoother you land, the less damage it takes. Like that level of maintenance I feel like is pretty rare in games where you really have to focus just on this one object.
Yeah, especially in open world games where vehicles are always so disposable.
Yeah.
Where, you blow up your car and it's like, oh, now I have to walk, a minute down the block to get to, hijack this next car.
Yeah.
Or, I'll just call in, have some random car, airlifted to me out of my huge pool of cars that I have back at my garage or whatever.
Yeah.
This is just like, this is your bike and you better take care of it.
I was amazed when you were playing, Jeff. There was a mission where it's like a side mission, right? Where you just had to run down this guy. Basically, is a chase across the Oregon plains and all that. The high desert, as they constantly refer to it as. And all of a sudden, this zombie wolf came out of the woods. And that zombie wolf, I don't know if they'll tweak this in the final game, but it was keeping up with your motorcycle, which was terrifying. They're called runners.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the reason.
Super fast zombie wolves, I guess.
Yeah. It was terrifying to see this thing like right alongside your bike. What the hell is going on?
It even looked at its watch at one time. I think it was holding out on you.
Yeah. Other than that, like the enemies, you mentioned there's humans, there's the freakers and all that. I think also one of the more striking things that people will have seen a glimpse of in the first hour of the game, if you checked out that footage, are the concept of newts, which they were big on. They're not kids. They're adolescents that are infected. Adolescents.
Yes.
But they have an awesome, weird movement to them that I didn't expect to see from this game.
Yeah, they kind of scamper around on all fours.
And climby and kind of just like the bottom rung of the totem pole of the food chain, so they're scared of the other freakers. It's a weird vibe.
Yeah. And like, they kind of like hang up on perches, so if they will leave you alone unless you're busy with something else, or if you kind of invade their space.
Yeah.
Or if you're injured too.
Right.
And that it's interesting. I can't remember any other kind, for all the zombie games that we've played, I can't remember another enemy type like that. And it's interesting how much tension it builds because, they're not necessarily going to attack you, and so you necessarily don't want to attack them. And so you kind of find yourself in environments with them, and it's like, there's one kind over there, and you kind of want to keep your eye on it, and you're kind of moving around with them around you, and it really ratchets up the tension. And it's kind of freaky.
Yeah. I mean, Overall, do you guys have a tough time playing this game? Do you think it's harder than people are going to expect?
It's pretty tough. Like, obviously, they're still balancing everything, but I found that it was a kind of a game of sticking and moving a lot of times, where you have like a pack of infected nearby. So it would be like, okay, I'm kind of poking at them, shooting a few of them, and then running away. Because if I just stood there and decided to turn into like a human turret, that just never went well. You find yourself overwhelmed pretty quickly.
Yeah. And it's interesting to note that at least right now, there are no plans for an easy mode in the game. It is one difficulty because it is kind of the charm of the game is they want it to be a pretty brutal open world.
Yeah, and I think I appreciate that. They were very clear at the beginning when we visited them. They're like, we're the kind of people that like to figure stuff out on our own. We don't like to have everything over tutorialized, and we want you to fail and learn from those things. Like one instance is you go to this base and you restore power to like a health checkpoint, like a quarantine area, and you restore power to it. And if you haven't scoped out the area and realized, oh, there are these loudspeakers on top of this building, they start blurring noise and like the automated, like, all right, everybody get in line and all that business. They're a little more articulate than that. And then that attracts everybody. So you're like, okay, next time I'm going to have to be way more careful before restoring power to an area. So
right.
Just like a really specific example, but I think that's kind of the overall vibe they're going for is like, we're going to present you with this situation. You could possibly mess it up in ways you're not anticipating, but then hopefully you'll learn from that and then kind of apply it to other scenarios.
Yeah, they seem to super not mind letting the player screw themselves over, I think. And another situation that I came on was there were the freaker nests, zombie nests, which kind of spawn enemies from them, and you have to clear them out. And I went...
And that's how you make the fast travel points, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. And I went into one of those places, and I was pretty low on ammo, and I didn't really have enough Molotov cocktails. And I got myself into so much trouble, and the answer ultimately was just to run away and come back when I had, a bigger stockpile of stuff to deal with this thing that I probably should have thought about that before I went out into the world. And, I kept on trying to do it anyway, and every time you shoot enemies, the sound brings in more enemies, and, torching one would make enemies come from all the other ones, and it was much more challenging than I expected. And again, that kind of fits in with the overall tone of the story and the gameplay and this world that they're trying to build, and I like that cohesiveness throughout it.
Yeah. What'd you think of Deacon St. John? Name aside, what'd you think of him as a character, Corey?
That's the thing, is we don't really know a whole lot about him. He's just kind of I don't want to say he's a cipher. He seems like he's been through a lot.
He lost his wife.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the relationship between him and his friend Boomer, I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, if you watch the first hour of the game, I think you'll get some sense of that, but it's best buddy Boomer who isn't doing too hot.
Yeah. And you think about games in general, there aren't many where the character you're playing as has a overbearing, flashy personality. You're kind of, and not to say that he's just a complete dud, but his
personality isn't in the forefront of the game for the first hour and what we saw so far.
And once you get separated from Boomer, which happens fairly early on, you're not like riding shotgun with someone else. So it's like, well, how does he? It's not like he's talking to himself the entire time too. So it's difficult to say based on what we saw and played, kind of how he is as a person.
Yeah, I agree. There's something I didn't expect either is like big branching decisions. Where early on it's like, all right, you're going out into the world. Do you want to take Boomer's precious shotgun or leave it with him back at the recovery shack, basically? And it feels a little David Cagey, just to have like those big button prompts on the game. But they said there were a fair amount of those throughout the game, and it seemed like those were all related to Boomer.
Yeah, that relationship in particular, yeah.
But they also said something surprising, which is that they said there are 20 characters or so that are on the scale of Boomer's importance throughout the game. Like there's going to be a lot of companions or NPC characters you're interacting with throughout the game outside of your one best buddy Boomer. Yeah,
I think it was actually 30.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I think the story is still the biggest question mark, at least for me.
Yeah.
And Deacon is a big part of that, and what kind of character he is. The writer said that they he wants to kind of unveil those characters as you go along, and that was kind of their answer of how you keep a player interested for 30 plus hours is you don't tell them everything right away, and you kind of reveal more about the character as you go along.
By going to like locations that he used to know, and there's even playable flashbacks like in those locations, that type of thing. So, you know, that certainly could be interesting. We really didn't see enough to kind of fill that in, but I'm intrigued enough by the gameplay, and I do think it will help majorly that the gameplay tone fits with the narrative tone in a way that you don't get, and again, sorry to rag on Far Cry 5 again, but that was one where, you know, they tried to do very serious stuff with the narrative, which they would kind of strap you down in and talk to you for a bit, and then they let you into the playground of the open world, and you kind of lost that sense. Right.
And I don't think you're going to get that in Days Gone.
Something I found encouraging, at least based on our conversations with the team, was that the story, they didn't put it this way, but it doesn't seem like a particularly ambitious in terms of Deacon St. John is going to save the world.
Right.
He's not going to find the cure for this thing. So basically, like, scale back your expectations story-wise. This is more about like this one dude's journey, probably across geography that doesn't span, like, it seems like a big world, but it's not like you're going across the country on a road trip to save everybody.
It's Oregon. They call it like a Disneylandified version of Oregon, where it's real-ish locations and geography kind of compacted down.
So I think the stakes are more localized to that character, where he's just trying to survive. His friend gets hurt at the beginning. He wants to get his friend back on his feet so they can just go back home. Yeah.
And you mentioned the writer in the game mentioned to you, Jeff, which is interesting, because this team is fascinating, and I feel like the industry doesn't know too much about them. But the writer, basically the sole writer for the game, is John Garvin, who's also the creative director, who goes back to Willie Beamish in the industry, Jeff Cork, which you're a fan of, but also the original Siphon Filter. And the director, the creative director, and the studio head tech director, they all worked together on the original Siphon Filter back in 1999? Working together since 1997, something in that ballpark. We have a video going up later on in the month about the history of the game's development, a little bit on the history of the studio, but it's just crazy to have like this, you know, relatively isolated in Central Oregon team together since the mid-90s, just cranking games away. They were in the handheld space for a long time with Uncharted Golden Abyss, Resistance, stuff like that. But this is like their big shot, going all out on the big, ambitious PlayStation 4 game. They've had to scale up so much. But do you have any general impressions of that studio or the team?
They have a very nice office.
They have a very nice office. They do have a new office. It's just
no, everybody
lovely.
was great. Like,
yeah. It's exciting to see a team get this big of a shot.
Yeah.
And they feel it. They know that they have to do well, which, by the way, I want to point out, I thought they were unbelievably generous sharing so much gameplay from the game. It's not coming out until early 2019, as they phrased it. And so huge grain of salt with that footage, and we have the overlay saying like, hey, this is alpha gameplay, but it kills me knowing that like they were very generous with that footage, and then seeing people be like, this looks a little janky yet. It's like, yeah, it's early, guys. They have so much time to go through this. They have like a year
left.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I would caution people, don't take that as the complete finished product in that gameplay, but I think it gives a good sense of the tone and overall what they're going for in the structure of this game. Yeah. And so throughout the month, gameformer.com/Days Gone, we're rolling out features. Obviously, today was a big one with the first hour of the game, but we're not over yet, folks. We have really even more gameplay to show, including on Friday, we're doing a new Gameplay Today video showing off a mission, which picks up basically right where that first hour left off. So if you want to see a more focused mission, that's a good angle. The meat of the game instead of kind of the more cinematic presentation style intro. And then we also, it seems like, Jeff, your favorite feature of the month is going to be
Horde mode.
There we go. The unofficial Horde mode. No, but we passed the controller and we each tried to take on a horde. Tried to take on one horde, which was 300 zombies / freakers.
A baby horde, as they called it.
Is basically easy mode in the game, and so you'll get to see what it's like to actually try and whittle that crowd down. And it was like the best type of environment for that too. We were all in a theater shouting at each other and making fun of each other as we're passing the sticks back and forth.
Yeah, you're a real jackass, by the way.
Yep, I know. I am very aware of that. I look at myself every day in the mirror. So gameformer.com/Days Gone, a ton of gameplay, a ton of info, and then hopefully at the end of the month we'll also have the developers on. We'll get to ask them some questions. So it's a good place to stick around if you want to learn more about Days Gone on the PlayStation 4. But hey, for now, you guys want to clap out of existence? We got other games to talk about, boys.
Yeah.
See ya.
Let's do it. Days Gone.
Holy cow. Ben Reeves, Matt Miller, welcome to the Game Informer Show, guys.
Yo,
It's gone.
The smartest men in show business, they call ya.
that's what they say.
Okay.
People say that, right?
Yeah, mostly you. and
Mostly, I walk around the
me.
office and
We're just telling each other.
I
that
like
we're
put
the
my arm
smartest.
around Ben and
That's
being
right.
like, "We're the smartest men in show business."
Smartest guys right here.
I regret saying it.
Other-
Miller.
Other people are really quiet when we say that, which is,
It's
I
rude.
think, acceptance,
Right.
silent acceptance.
Right.
Miller, it felt like there was one of those moments in the office lately where it's like, oh boy, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire code has come in.
Mm-hmm.
Give me my time. I'm going home.
And
I'm
then
being
disappeared.
sealed away
Yeah.
to just be absorbed into this world.
Give it to the smartest man on staff.
So Pillars of Eternity 2, maybe I like this kind of info more than most, but like how many hours did you put into it? How big is this game?
It's real big. It
Yeah.
depends on how you play it, but it's a game built to be enjoyed across the many different ways you can play it. Like playing through that game, if you're like, I'm going to critical path my way through Pillars 2, you're like, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Just don't play it then. Because the whole idea of the game is that it's a big archipelago of islands that you're
That's cool.
exploring. So it's kind of got, think like Baldur's Gate, but pirates and sea shanties and exploring over the horizon kind of
Wait, did the
vibe.
first one have a pirate theme?
No.
Or was that? Oh, okay.
It's totally new to this game. So it's like a different part of the game world. The story is continuous, although it's pretty standalone here, but it does follow through. You can play the same character you played in the first game, and
Oh, cool.
it picks up where that game left off in that your fortress that you built up all the way through the first game gets destroyed to start the game.
Figures.
Perfect.
Video games.
And to
That 80 hours you spent?
80 hours
Gone.
you spent just gone. And so to avenge the 80 hours that you spent, you go pursuing the entity that caused the problem, which is a god that rose up out of the earth from beneath your fortress
good
and has
stuff.
gone marching off into the sea for unknown purposes.
You get to see him wade into the sea.
yeah.
Big things in water really do it for me. Like in Skull Island when Kong is like walking through the water and it's just like barely up to his ankles. That looks so good.
You get to see it in the sense that you see the footprints and you see like cut scene art that shows it. I mean, it's
Okay,
it's an
that's good.
isometric RPG, so
Sure,
like we're
right.
not talking about like giant special effects cinematic cutscenes.
I feel like we should set this up with that isometric RPG thing
Yeah.
a little bit more because there have been a fair amount of these coming
Yeah.
out in the last couple of years. It's an interesting resurgence or bubble in the industry here. So this is Obsidian's sequel to Pillars of Eternity 1, which came out, 2015?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that first one was kickstarted, right?
Yeah, I think
And
so.
this one was not?
I mean, Pillars of Eternity was a really great game that more than anything else really helped to solidify this resurgence and kickstart this resurgence of that genre. There have been some really great games in the interim, not the least of which I would count Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah.
I personally really love Torment, Tides of Numenera. Those are both games that I think did some really unique things within the space and got people excited. Pillars of Eternity 2 distinguishes itself with its pirate seafaring setting more than it does some dramatic reinvention of gameplay. I mean, in a lot of ways, if you have a fondness for those old Baldur's Gate games that this isn't Dungeons and Dragons rule set, but it's awful close conceptually, right? You're going to be able to drop into Pillars very quickly. But you're going to get this injection of the sea shanties sung by your crew, and you're improving your ship and putting new cannons on, and you're having ship-to-ship battles.
Sea of Thieves fans are going to love it.
Maybe
boy.
so. But there's a lot more storytelling and building up your party and having
maybe they won't love it
relationships and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So it seemed like you gave it an 8.75
Yeah.
in your review. I mean, is just the easy diagnosis here? Like if you love Pillars of Eternity, this is a twist on it, but still ultimately more Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah, I think if I would go one step further than that and say that if you love isometric RPGs or you've always been curious about it, this is a great game to play. There's some characters that carry over and some concepts that carry over if you haven't played Pillars 1, but I think they do a really good job of introducing those concepts and getting you up to speed about the world and what's going on and who you're playing and the couple of party members that return. It's fine. You're not
Okay.
going to feel completely lost.
Yeah.
And this is just the more evolved version of the game. I think it's a better game than Pillars 1 now, right? But it should be. It's several years later.
Okay.
And like I said, I think there's some other folks that have done some really interesting things in the space in the years since that have continued to move the genre forward. And so we have to look at it in its moment of time, right? And so it actually scored a little lower from me, but not because it isn't a great game. It's just that there's been so much evolution there within the genre that has to be set against those other games.
Yeah. I feel like I'm isometric curious, as you call it.
Sure.
And I feel like there's just been this huge bombardment of these type of games. And I tried to go back to Baldur's Gate like 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh, I can't do it. It's too hard.
The remake, even the remakes of Baldur's Gate, which are really cool.
Yeah.
Those games feel very antiquated now.
Oh yeah. But I'd love to like experience that and what people like. Like I played the only thing I really dabbled with was like Fallout 2 back in the day. It was like, if you consider that kind of game.
Yep.
But so what would you say Pillars 2 is like I should maybe check that out if I wanted to, or is there another one that's like better to check out for if you're like me and very curious?
If I was pointing you towards games to try in that space, I really would point you towards one of three. Pillars 2 is the natural evolution of what people liked about Baldur's Gate, but with this awesome pirate setting, and if that's something that really does it for you, and you also want the gameplay systems to be familiar but like more accessible than they were in Baldur's Gate, go to Pillars. If you want a little bit more drastic reinvention of gameplay systems, I'd point you towards Divinity Original Sin 2. That game in particular, the choices that you make and the party that you build up, you really feel like you're sort of organically shaping the world around you, and that's really neat.
Also, Dante gave it a 9.75.
That's right.
He really loves that game. I wouldn't say that personally I love that game as much, but I think it's great.
Okay.
I actually put Divinity in a very similar play space in my mind of quality to like Pillars, which is to say,
Very good.
it's really good. And finally, if you're a little sick of the standard fantasy vibe, I'd point you towards Torment. Torment is such a great world building experiment. It's based on a tabletop RPG called Numenera that is awesome. I would tell you to try that. If the whole idea of like knights in shining armor and just wizards who live on the top of a tower, that kind of stuff is like, I feel like I've done this a million times before. Torment is the game that I'd point you towards. But those three are right now.
Those are the pillars.
The pillars.
The three
of
pillars.
okay.
Yeah, it's exciting to think of this, resurgence being at a state now where Obsidian can test the waters with Pillars 1 and say, is anybody interested in this type of thing? And then people say, hell yes! It's like, all right.
Bring it on!
And now we're at a point where they're making a sequel and they can expand this concept to such a large degree. I mean, is it just going to keep rolling? I wonder. Like, I want to see what this fan base is like going into Pillars 3, Pillars 4, the Pillars MMO.
I'd love to see it evolve to the point where there's 3D versions of these games.
Boo!
I think that it is a genre movement that is probably here to stay at this point. It's not everybody and their dog that's playing these kinds of games, but they are well loved by the people who do play them, who would be very happy to string from, okay, I finished this game and now I'm going to go on to the next one, because they're built now very much like video game versions of a tabletop campaign, right? Like they have great narration, great writing, really cool world building, characters that you care about. That's really why you want to dive in here. I would put what those developers are doing, whether you're talking about the guys who make Pillars or Torment or Divinity, I'd put their world building and storytelling up against the heavy hitters any day. People like BioWare and
Rockstar?
Bethesda and Rockstar. I mean, any of those other bigger RPGs with bigger budgets, right? With that, maybe those games are going to offer you a more cinematic experience. But in terms of just shaping a world and having great rule systems that work well together, these kinds of games are where it's at.
Awesome. So check out your review on the site. We also have a new Gameplay Today video, which Leo contributed as well in the booth too. So you can check that out. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. Reeves.
Yeah.
And Miller, I'm glad you're here because you're our previews editor, and you lined up this red hot preview.
Yeah.
That's right.
For 2 points.
Because he's so smart.
so smart. He
So
can't.
one of the
Most
smartest
intelligent
guys in the
guy, yeah.
office.
Oh, he's really.
Is that
up
what
there.
it is?
One of the two. I would.
One
say.
of the two.
2 Point Hospital.
Speaking of,
There we go.
perfect segue.
This is the spiritual successor in a way to Theme Hospital.
I don't think in a way it totally is.
100% spiritual successor.
I mean, I kind of isn't the name kind of a joke on that? It's like Hospital 2.0.
I asked him about the name because
Oh.
I was like, guys, this is a bad name. It's like, what's the deal here? And they're like, well, it's kind of in that theme of like it's the guys who created Theme Hospital.
Yes.
For one. And they're like, oh, this was always like our favorite thing to play, like to build back in the day. Like they worked on Fable, but they're like, we had more fun making Theme Hospital than we
interesting.
did
Yeah.
Fable. So they wanted to go back to that and like kind of revive it. And like 2 Point was kind of like a cheeky way to reference. It's an
Indiscernibly
update.
cheeky.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's also like they reference Twin Peaks as well. They're like, we
Twin
like Twin
Peaks,
Peaks,
really?
and their logo has this like kind of a mountainy kind of thing going
Okay.
on,
What?
kind of Twin Peaks style.
Just call it. So it's Twin Peaks Hospital.
Yeah, but so their reference was, if this is successful, we might make other games like this, like a 2 Point prison or a 2 Point whatever.
Right.
And so 2 Point is the name of their like county that has all these like
Okay.
things.
It's up there in the naming convention with 22 cans, I think, just to fully get this
they're-
line of succession going.
Another theme there, but yeah. So anyway, but despite the name, which I'm not fully on board with, the
Whatever.
game is actually pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
And I wasn't like a huge fan of Theme Hospital, but
There's a lot of people that are.
I like those types of games though, and so like it was fun. I got to play it for like 2 hours, and it's fun. And I think you would like this, Hanson. It's got
Ooh.
very like Aardman sort of animation kind of vibe with
Really?
it, not just
Okay.
with like the animation and design of the characters, but like the humor as well. One of the diseases none of the diseases are real,
Thank God.
but yeah, which
We
actually
like that there because then you could have caught them.
But it's not like Blancer or something.
no, but
Okay.
like one of the diseases is
Leo liked that one out in the booth. That joke was for him,
it was for him, and hopefully somebody else is laughing at
Maybe
it.
so.
So,
not us.
not for smart people. I wouldn't
No,
say that
not
joke
for
was
the
smart
smartest people in
at
the
all.
office, but other people will really get it.
What are the diseases like?
One of the diseases your head turns into a light bulb.
My grandma went that way, actually.
And-
It's not cool, dude.
I'm sorry, but do you know what that's called?
I forget the name. What is it?
Lightheadedness.
Oh,
That's good.
So it's stuff like that.
yeah.
And if people die in your hospital, they turn into ghosts, and then like
What?
your janitors will have to go around and like suck them up in vacuums, kind of a thing.
done.
Yeah.
Good game.
You're on
Good
board.
game accomplished, ladies and gentlemen. That is so much fun.
Yeah,
That's
so
silly.
It was cool. It's like a fun management game, and you can like deck out your offices, you build new offices, you train your staff, that kind of thing.
And you're into it.
I was into it. Yeah, I only played for 2 hours, but
I mean, to be clear, this
foundation
is
is
not
there
out
for something
yet.
cool.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's
This
coming
is
out later
coming.
this fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. This fall.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, they didn't put an exact time on it, but it seemed like they were thinking fall
Okay. Is it PC only?
for now.
Wow.
But they said we're open to moving it to other things.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's wind back the clock. Pillars 2 PC only now or console in the future? What's the.
Yeah, it's coming to consoles, so it's just not there yet.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you got to play on a home computer now.
Speaking of not quite there yet, Destiny 2, Miller. You're
Yeah.
playing the new expansion. What's it called?
Warmind.
Hey, Warmind.
Warmind.
So how
What is it
big is
good
this
for?
thing?
What? You both asked a question at the same time. I didn't hear either of them.
Okay, we're now we're gonna do the joke where we swap. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
And
What is it
where
good
is
for?
This is a really great expansion,
Nailed
I
it.
guess. Where is it? It's
I didn't know what you asked.
You check.
this is the second smaller expansion.
That
for
wasn't the
Destiny
question.
2. Warmind. So there was the initial release in September. Then we had Curse of Osiris in December. We've had this long stretch for like 5 months where there really hasn't been a lot of new content to dig into.
Fans have noticed.
But Bungie has been piecemeal putting in some, I would say maybe quality of life things in recent months, along with a few significant updates like the change to Iron Banner to 6v6. There have been things that have gone in that I don't know that those things necessarily brought players back in because there wasn't anything to really do, right? A lot of new stuff to do. And now there's new stuff to do, and it's getting to reap the benefits of those piecemeal updates. So Warmind is has its own campaign, own short campaign that you play through, and it's got some new Crucible maps, and there's going to be a new raid that launches soon, a raid layer anyway, which is kind of the smaller raids. But it also has some updates of things like you can now set your emotes to any 4 emotes that you want, which previously wasn't in, and something that people really wanted. They moved the vault space up from 200 to 300, which is very helpful for those
Just
of
make
us
it
who
6,000.
Yeah, why didn't you just do that to begin with? It seems like
the vault issue is one that continues to confound people because it seems like it was a big problem throughout the life of Destiny 1,
Right.
and then Destiny 2 came out, and it was like, this is still a huge problem, and if anything has taken a step back, and so people really took them to task. I felt strongly that it was a thing that it felt strange that it wasn't resolved.
Yeah.
They still haven't resolved it, and they talk about this move from 200 to 300 as being a temporary solution, which
Interesting.
implies that I think that they're exploring ways to more fully address this issue for people who are collection-oriented players.
Yeah.
The expansion itself is a pretty fun concept. You're returning to Mars, which was a big location in the first game, but now a different part of Mars, the polar ice caps.
So new environment art, everything.
Yeah, totally,
That's cool.
totally new location that you're getting to explore, and you're going through a campaign about 2 things that, as the ice has melted away, the glaciers pulled back in response to the thing that happens at the end of the core campaign, the traveler waking up or
Sure.
whatever, right? The 2 things have woken up. One is Rasputin, the Warmind, this big old AI that's its intentions are always a little bit unclear. Is this a
Right.
good guy? Is it a bad guy? Whatever. And then there's this big bad hive worm god that has woken up. Think like
Bungie and their worm guys.
like Dune and the giant worms in
Yeah.
Dune.
Well,
it's
Beetlejuice,
basically
but
that.
yeah,
Okay,
Tremors.
Beetlejuice is more your
Oh, very
speed
much
for
more my
giant
speed.
worms. So it's that kind of thing. It's woken up and it's causing problems. And so you got to go up to Mars and deal with those issues.
Get your ass to
do you
Mars.
ever go inside one of the worms and shoot it up from the inside?
No, I'm afraid
And then they're like, we got to go out. No, not that way. The other way.
that would have been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Bungie.
Hey, Bungie, if you need a writer.
But you're
that's
feeling
ready.
positive?
You are one of the smartest people on staff.
That's true. One of the 2.
You're feeling positive about the expansion so far?
I feel pretty good about it. I think one of the things that they've done well, and by the way, I should preface this by saying that like I'm literally playing this right now. It's only been out for a couple days,
Yeah.
so impressions are shifting as I play. But one thing that they have done a better job with in this expansion is extending the tail of the expansion, making there be more things that you can engage with over time after you finish what is ultimately just the campaign is just a few missions long. You're going to finish it in an afternoon.
I assume it's like Osiris's campaign.
Yeah, it's
that
about
long?
that
Okay.
size.
Okay.
And it's pretty fun. It maybe plays a little fast and loose with some aspects of the fiction and the lore in a way that people like me who care a lot about that stuff might struggle with just a little bit, in that like it seems to oversimplify certain things, but it's not a big deal probably for a lot of players. Ultimately, what it does do is offer a few fun boss fights and a new location to explore. But then after that campaign is completed, there are lots of fun secrets that are very reminiscent of what people liked in The Taken King when they were running around in the Dreadnought.
Right.
Right? There were all these like weird chests that you'd find and be like, how do I get into that? And there's that kind of stuff again, which I think is very appealing to folks who like coming in and playing every day. There's things to chase there, like an exotic quest that you're really going through just a bunch of steps and just, okay, now do precision shots for this many times, and now go do 5 heroic strikes, and these are things that are going to take time to do, that I think will be appealing, even though it is pretty grindy.
Yeah.
It'll be appealing for those long-time players. I will also say that one of the other things that the game right now is doing a better job of making characters feel powerful. Part of that is through an update that they did before this expansion launch, which if you haven't played since, let's say, December, I think you'll notice right away that your Guardian just feels stronger, and they've rebalanced some of the subclasses and weapons to just feel better. The current state of the meta, the balance between the weapons and stuff is pretty good right now. I think there's auto rifles feel good, pulse rifles feel good, hand cannons feel good. There's a lot of great feeling weapons. And just with this expansion, one of the big things that I'm stoked about is they've updated a lot of the exotic weapons to just feel way more powerful, and they do.
Interesting.
In Destiny 1, those were that top tier of thing you were chasing because they were so fun.
Yeah.
And it felt like they lost a little bit of that in the initial launch, where like, yeah, you were still chasing the exotics, but like they really weren't that much better than just a normal legendary gun. Here now, there are guns like Sunshot and Graviton Lance that are just a lot of fun to shoot.
Good.
So that you feel like when you're going through and playing the content, if you don't have an exotic equipped, you're kind of making a mistake almost because they're so good. You should be having to make the hard choice of what do I put on. And those exotics in turn have now masterwork options that are yet another thing to kind of be grinding for and chasing.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's some good content in there. I don't know that Warmind is the be-all, end-all solution to the problems that the fan base of Destiny 2 have been citing for many months. There are some significant challenges that the game still faces in terms of being a hobby game experience. But I do think that this expansion represents a step in the right direction in a lot of important ways.
Cool. So impressions on the site soon for that. Also, you wrote like a Destiny 2 kind of season report card, which is interesting. You can check that out at GameInformer.com. Miller, thank you. You're so smart. Thank you for being here. Do you remember years and years ago when we went to a studio called Ready at Dawn?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a lot with the creative director of the studio, Rue.
Yeah, totally.
Remember? Working on The Order, working on Daxter on PSP.
Totally.
The PSP God of War games. Wouldn't you like to know what he thinks of God of War on the PS4?
That would be fascinating to me.
Well, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy our interview with Rue. Rue, welcome back to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. I think basically you're the unofficial co-host of the podcast at this point. It's like your third appearance on the show.
I think so, something like that. I'm just ready to quit my job at this point.
Yeah, you're welcome to come to Game Informer at any point. But I'm happy to have you just because so rarely, or so few people in the industry have directed God of War games. You're one of them. And so I would love to talk from a director of God of War games. You directed the first PSP game and then co-directed the second. Is that the division?
Yeah, so I was the creative director on the second one, basically.
Okay, gotcha. So I would just love to know what you see in the new God of War on PS4 that maybe the average player wouldn't. I mean, how much have you played at this point?
I think I want to say about 5 hours in.
Okay.
I've just completed the Light of Alfheim, so just about 4 or 5 hours in.
That's perfect. So we really can't even spoil stuff if we wanted to. So it's going to be a relatively spoiler-free conversation. But sitting back playing the game, are you taking notes? What is the most shocking thing so far for you?
I would tell you the most shocking thing and the most well executed thing is what Corey actually decided to do in reinventing God of War. It's never easy to basically kind of give you back that feeling the first time you picked up God of War and you saw the Blades of Chaos.
Right.
And there was a click right at that moment where you kind of go, wow, I haven't seen that. This is amazing. I'm playing something that is just absolutely novel. And that was the first God of War. The second, perfected it. It was kind of like this such an iconic thing in the game industry. I think we were all wondering, how in the world does Kratos in that old world get reinvented? Do you use the Blades of Chaos? Do you not do that? And I think it was actually pretty bold and brilliant to do some of the things that they did in completely changing the most iconic thing about God of War. Well, the second most iconic outside of the character was the blades.
Right.
And just go from what you expected to give you something completely novel. That I think I think people, I'm sure, have written enough about it, but I don't think maybe many people realize how hard it is to do that to an IP without sacrificing its core intent.
Well, I mean, do you feel like it sacrifices anything after spending so much time with the character? When you play it, are you fully convinced this is Kratos? This is the Kratos I helped build in some way?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of it. I think that's why it's such a hard job and it's so well executed. It's just that it isn't something that, you just take for granted and you just feel like, hey, let's give him a new weapon, new combat system. Then you have to translate everything that Kratos was into a new choreography, I mean, it's like a dance, right? His combat moves is like a dance, and to choreograph all of that into something that feels like Kratos with a new weapon, and not just like a secondary weapon like in the old God was, a brand new core weapon that gets upgraded and all that. That was just absolutely beautiful. I think from the moment I started, I was just like, all right, I see where he's going with this. This is like really dialed in and perfectly kind of executed.
And the new setting is crazy to think about. I remember we did like a History of Ready at Dawn video back when we had The Order on our cover. And I remember talking to you about the development of these PSP games a little bit back then. And you had mentioned that like there were discussions even back then, which would have been before God of War 2 launched, about a Norse setting. Do you remember like what those conversations were?
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, the very first, the start of Chains of Olympus, we were wondering, do we stay in the universe since it's going to be on a different platform, or do we kind of like take Kratos out of his universe and go somewhere else? And we toyed with the Norse mythology back then as well, just with the idea of like, hey, is that what God of War on PSP needs to be? Is it, God of War but in a different environment? But no, in the end, we basically continued the story. There was so much to tell about Kratos. And it's kind of cool to see the execution of this Norse mythology actually done this way. It's like, it's a kind of reinvention, but with the God of War flavor.
Yeah. Do you remember what those conversations were? Was it David Jaffe back in the day, or a very young Cory Barlog at the studio as well saying like, maybe don't do Norse yet? Or was it you guys saying, let's stick with something that is more identifiable as a brand in the Greece setting?
Oh man, I would love to remember exactly what it was. I want to tell you that David was involved at the very beginning, Cory as well, but Cory was so ingrained in his God of War, in God of War 2, right?
Yeah.
I remember a conversation with David early on like that went around like, okay, where's the setting? What are we trying to do? Are we continuing this story or not? And I think they evolved around how you basically pluck a character that is so, again, in Greek mythology. How do you just, after one game, just take him out? And it just wasn't the right thing. We didn't pursue it that far at all. It was more of it didn't feel right for the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so what do you think of the new setting? Outside of, you mentioned like combat mechanics, everything like that, but what do you think about the new setting overall? Do you feel like it's believable for Kratos' world?
Absolutely. I think where they left off with his story and where it went here, it was interesting to see, especially the time that passed. Kratos with a beard, of course, the old man Kratos. There's a lot of echoes of things that I think we've already attached to in the past few years, with kind of Logan and all of those, which are absolutely awesome. I think they touch at certain emotional moments, and putting him in a setting that is foreign makes him kind of almost the player yourself and Kratos kind of a foreigner in a foreign land, right? Which is kind of a really good way of actually putting players into a story, because you feel like you're discovering as he's discovering as well.
Yeah. Do you guys talk about this game a lot in the office, since so many of that staff at Ready at Dawn had a hand in building those old God of War games?
Yeah, absolutely, we do. We always do. We talk about so many games actually that so many of our friends actually have made. We've been absolutely huge fans actually of Santa Monica, Cory, Eric, all of those guys actually out there that we've known for a long time. And we had such a long partnership, and such a very long partnership actually with Santa Monica Studio, with Shannon up there, and. So it's always great to see games come out of people that you actually know, understand, have similar mentalities, and then when it comes out, of course, what we first do is be overly critical, overly harsh, dissect the game, but it's so much fun to enjoy every little nuance that they put in there.
Yeah, I mean, not knowing much about game development whatsoever, just playing that game, it just seems unreal to have that level of support from Sony during that game. Like the idea of giving them 5 years, I cannot even imagine what the budget would be on that new God of War. I mean, is that also what runs through your guys' head? It's just like, what kind of effing production is this? Like, who gets this much money? It's crazy.
But I think that's the beauty of Sony, right? I think that, yes, you have that in your head when you look at the games that they put out, but I think that's what Sony as a whole on the PlayStation side as interactive entertainment, that belief that they've done, with all their internal teams, has been absolutely amazing. It's been so good for the game industry overall. It's kind of cool to see like kind of that passion not just be part of the development team, but be part of corporate as well, having that kind of that guidance from corporate with Kaz having come from PlayStation, all the guys that are actually out there. I think pushing that same kind of passion all the way from the top to all the way to development.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned internal teams. So with the Order, did you feel that kind of support even though you're external? Do you feel like there's a lot of overlap there of like, I know what it's like to be in that system?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you always see whoever Sony embraces, I think they actually bring some of that. Of course, it's different. Your internal, your external, those are two different kind of like ways of dealing with companies. I mean, studios themselves and employees and all that stuff. So you of course feel like kind of the support that they give. We work with a lot of the Sony San Diego guys, for example, to build pipelines that have actually translated into the stuff that the God of War team used. So it's kind of nice to see kind of that evolution of it's not a one-off. You build something and that thing becomes something more. We relied on things that other studios have done as well in the past, and I think that's what Sony's so great at. It's just kind of leveraging those creative juices to make something that actually impacts everybody.
Yeah. I actually was thinking about the Order while playing God of War, just because the camera is front and center with the new God of War, the no-cut camera and all that. And I remember on that cover story trip for God of War, Corey was big on like, I want this game to be anti-film. I want to do something that films couldn't do. And I think to like the Order cover story trip is very interesting because you guys were like, we want to be as cinematic and as filmic as possible with the Order's camera. What do you think about those two approaches?
I think they're great. And as a matter of fact, they're not far apart. I mean, the reality of it is that when we built what we did, and I think it was interesting to hear one of the art directors from God of War, Ralph Razzelli, he mentioned that you needed a game like The Order for the industry, for other things to happen. We did a lot of things that were risky. They were not necessarily kind of the simple kind of path to take, and you don't know where they're going to hit when they come out. So that's of course the case. The camera, for example, as much as it was filmic, it was also a real time. No pre-rendered cutscene. Everything was running real time. So although we had cuts, there was already this kind of stake in the ground of like everything's going to be in game. Everything's going to be in the game engine. What Corey did, on God of War and with those guys at Santa Monica is kind of an evolution of that, almost as in, okay, what if there was no cuts? What if everything was in game but there were no cuts? How do you basically truly translate the story? So I think the approach is amazing because that is a truly game approach. Movies cannot do that. I mean, movies do sometimes, but they're very hard to actually kind of follow in the space of a movie, 1.5 hour movie, because sometimes you feel like, it can be disorienting.
Yeah, you can't do it for 40 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That is purely a game thing. That is purely like, keep one single camera, make it move around and try to tell a story to that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to understand what it's like for you to play a game like the new God of War. Does it feel like I don't know, seeing Facebook photos from an ex-girlfriend or something? Is it a weird vibe of like, is there any jealousy? Is there any amount of like, God, I wish Ready at Dawn could have tackled this huge project?
Actually, I would tell you, I don't think there's jealousy. I don't know, like for us, there hasn't been, purely because we've shared so much with all the studios that we love the idea of like, the one-upping. One studio comes in and just does something so much better that everybody kind of like follows. That's what drives us a lot. So games like this are what we live for, whether we make them or somebody else make them. What it feels like really is yes, there's a part of what you've done in the past that you see reflected in some of the things, whether they were because of it or not. You kind of almost put a definition in there. Like I remember seeing some of my first combat with the troll. And my memories went straight back to the Cyclops with the log, that we had, and I was like, oh wow, like it's not driven by that, but it actually just brings a little nostalgia, into what you've done and how cool the things are. But then you see all the novelty they put in that game, and just the level of kind of execution, especially for the combat, because I think it's probably one of the most brilliant combat, past God of Wars and this God of War has to be like some of the most brilliant combat that has ever been made in games.
Yeah.
And that is just inspirational. I mean, you sit in front of this and you go like, yeah, that's really cool. And all I want is actually sometimes just to call them and talk to those guys and be like, hey, would you be up for a conversation? Because we'd love to basically just chat about how you guys decided to get there.
Yeah. My God. It's got to be bizarre too, just thinking about so much of the messaging around this new game is like, this is a more emotional Kratos. Before, he was a big screamy guy, but now he's more emotional. But you think back of like both your games, Both of those games also get emotional, deal with him, with familial relations, maybe even, not counting Zeus, maybe even more than the main 3 games.
Yeah.
Do you feel like those games are still given credit? Like people remember that, like, the first game, there were some emotional scenes with Calliope.
Yeah. No, I think, we heard that. We actually had people tell us that after this God of War game came up as well. The first one with Calliope, the second one with the brother. As a studio, I would tell you, us personally, we were always kind of delved more into that side of storytelling.
Yeah.
Even the order, actually, we kind of went on to more the personal side, what happens between, Galahad and Isabel, this new woman that comes into play, with Lakshmi. That was all about emotions and human relationships. We did the same thing with Lone Echo. So for us, it kind of brings exactly at what we love about games, which is if you tell an emotional story, the player, and in a movie's case, the viewer, right, has only so much of a connection in a movie. In the game, you are the emotion. You are the one feeling it. And games do that with interactivity. And I think that God of War does an amazing job at it.
Yeah. It's going to be fun, too, to think about it like, without spoiling anything, it's like a big core of the game is Kratos struggling to communicate with his son, to talk about his past with his son. And it's got to be extra bundled up because it's also the emotions of development for those 2 PSP games for you guys, because it's also Kratos talking about your work in some way as well. Like, mention Calliope, mention your brother. We spent so much time with those people.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it would have been fun. It would have been actually kind of interesting if that happened. But I think what was actually amazing about the way the story of God of War was written was that kind of almost. There's echoes. You almost feel in the way, at least the way I've experienced it right now, maybe because of what I know. I'm not necessarily sure which part of it is what I know as a developer and which part is what I know as a gamer. I love to see Kratos almost repress some of his past, his family from his first family that he killed. Like, I mean, all of what happened, and repressing that and having those kind of little things come out when those emotional moments happen with his son. It's just these little things that kind of break through, but not, they don't really, he doesn't talk about it. There is a past. The witch actually, she mentioned, she mentions basically that, I don't know what journey you're on, and I know that you're a god, but not from here. And it almost seems like it's alluding to, like, you have another life.
Right.
And you have another life, and Kratos is basically living this one, trying to extricate himself from the past one. It's really interesting. For me, at least, I read that into that because I almost see like a father who already had somebody, who just wants to be distant. He just doesn't want that connection kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually thinking about you guys a lot recently because also on this episode of the podcast, we talked about Days Gone, which is our current cover story trip. And it's just bizarre, the echoes of visiting Sony Bend and being like this beloved handheld developer making the leap to a huge PS4 game. It's like, I feel like I've told this story before. It's like, oh, that's right, Ready It Done. Have you been following Days Gone? Do you have any advice for that team at Sony Bend since they seem to be on such a similar track as you guys?
Oh, God. I haven't been following it that much. I mean, outside of the little things that I've heard here and there and the stuff that I've seen, basically, the sporadic stuff that I've seen. But I would tell you, beyond the game itself, one of the things that we found out, especially, going through what we did was from where we were to the order to where we're now. One of the biggest focuses we've had as a studio, and I would give it to any studio that's out there that is in that situation, it's culture. Games, like you make games, right, as a studio, and you make, you pour energy, years into making games. But one of the things that actually we found out is that you often lose your culture inside making the game, rather than actually kind of taking time building your company culture and your team culture and making that the most important thing. One of the things that happened with The Order, for example, for us was that we were so ingrained in the game that sometimes as we were ballooning in size, and ballooning is a big word because we literally went from, I think, 45 people to 120.
Yeah.
But 120 is still small for a AAA developer because studios were like 300 people at the time. Even through that, I think the pace of hiring just made us kind of like forget a little bit of who we were in the middle of all of that, which is a tricky thing. Any company growing actually goes through that.
So how do you fix it? Company picnics every week, mandatory? What's the solution there?
No, you actually, you kind of bring everybody together for very important things, like on a regular basis, rather than like, almost kind of keeping everybody in the loop on everything that you do, rather than assuming that everybody's so specialized that they're doing that thing and you have to keep the bigger vision. We went really deep into with the last few games. We went really deep into making sure that there was this common goal, that even though you might not touch the greater game, you're just working on a smaller thing, even if there were external people, like even contractors, to really bring them in the fold of everything.
Yeah, that's good advice. Anything you want to plug? What would you like people to look at from the studio? Lone Echo seems to be going well. Seems like you guys are being smothered in awards for that, which has got to be nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very cool. It was a big risk, but I think we knew where we were going. No different than what we've done in the past. What you and I have talked about the game industry and the boundaries you need to break. We try to do that with the Order on PS4. Kind of set some, break some barriers that we know that some studio had to break at one point or the other. For us, it's the same thing with VR. We saw barriers. We try to break them. We have Echo Combat basically ahead of us that is proving to be pretty cool. We're playing a lot of it actually at the studio. We're spending some of our free time basically in VR playing combat. We have a few things brewing. It's just a fun time right now. I would tell you, it's a very fun time to be doing what we're doing, because we have, I think, 4 projects in one state or the other. One is in complete incubation, 2 are in production, and 1 is in its finishing stages. It's kind of cool. It's fun. It's difficult, but fun to handle all of it. So it's schizophrenic, right?
Yeah. Any chance you're going to be at E3 this year?
There should be some cool stuff at E3, I think.
Oh, the finished project, maybe?
Well, yes, close to finishing, maybe.
Close to finishing. All right, that's very helpful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you checking in. It's nice to have somebody who knows something check into the podcast every once in a while.
Thanks. Always a pleasure.
All right, take care, man. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm here with the full table, the Dream Crew. We have Ben Reeves.
It's me.
Kyle Hilliard.
I'm the Dream Crew.
Cyril Vasquez.
I'm also part of a dream.
Resident Dreamboat. We're here to answer emails. People were into podcast@gameinformer.com. They had questions. They had comments. They had words of wisdom. They had dares. They had bets. They had games. They had everything under the sun.
Links that I clicked on.
I just clicked through everything. Send in any links to podcast@gameinformer.com. Even if security warnings will pop up, I'll click through it because I trust you, listeners and viewers.
We'll pick the best link of the week.
Do we get any dreams yet?
We had several dreams.
Ooh, I like to hear dreams.
All right. Podcast@gameinformer.com. We're going to read through all these, choose our absolute favorite email, unquestionably, and then wherever that person is from, we'll put them on the big board. The big old corkboard.
This is only the second time we're doing it, right?
That's right.
That's
exactly right. So this important detail I didn't stress last time is I don't need your address, but knowing what city or what area you're from, that's nice to know in the email. It's fun to know anyway, and now that we're putting you on a world map and tracking which exactly are God's countries, we need to know where you're from. So please write that in along with your wonderful comments to podcast@gameinformer.com. Because, personally, you guys know just how cool Louisville, Kentucky is.
No.
It's cooler
I've
than
never
cool.
been,
I've
never been there.
It's like ice cool.
I usually go on
It's cooler than cool. Ice cool.
I like going on a good Memorial Day when you get to just sit around the town and enjoy the largest annual Beatles festival in the world, Abbey Road on the river. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course.
Abbey Road on the river.
Right. And you're just sitting back listening to the music scene on 91.9 WFPK radio, Louisville.
Wow, you really know this city.
I just love it. Well, you got to honor it. It's the chosen land for the Game Informer show.
So you're
now.
committing to these sort of
God's
facts
country.
every following week.
We'll see.
Yeah, love visiting there, getting their fried chicken, which you can only get there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the first email comes from Nail It. I'll assume it's a Mr. Nail It. He says, "Hello, GI crew." Oh, never mind. "Hello, this is Josh from Louisville, Kentucky. I love his email said Nail It. I love the GI show, and the new map you're using for emails is a really great idea.
Hey.
However, I think in the future you should do a cursory review of the U.S. map, or just have Leo cut the video while you take 5 seconds to Google some quick information about the winning email location. I am from Louisville, and I am a history and geography teacher. So watching a group of adults struggle to find Kentucky on a map, then hear them argue about whether or not it was the South, then hear Ben say that Kentucky fought for the South during the Civil War was too much for me to hear. Well, look, I'm sorry. If they fought for the North, they should have made it more well known.
That's true.
Put in the title of their state.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's their motto, actually. We fought for the North.
Why does everyone keep saying that?
Why don't people want to be from the South?
Steven The Tiny Man from Louisville, Kentucky writes in, says, "Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time writer. So I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. There have been a few writers in the last couple episodes from the town as well. We do not pronounce the word Louisville in a sane way here. If you pronounce it like that, you've been pronouncing it on the podcast.
Is it Louisville?
It's pronounced Louisville,
Okay.
not Louisville.
I didn't have to Google that ahead of time.
You'll get the stank eye if you say Louisville when you're down there. Also, we have a town called Versailles, but it's not pronounced Versailles. It's pronounced Versailles. God's country indeed. Incidentally, I believe that someone mentioned that Kentucky fought for the South. If that's true, then historical revisionism in our schools went way deeper and further back than I thought. Apparently, they were neutral for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Pick a
Kentucky,
side,
the
Kentucky.
Switzerland
Come
of
on.
America.
I'm just saying, it's definitely God's country. But I was thinking about like that weird pronunciation thing. We have a town in Minnesota called Montevideo, and it wasn't until here it goes geography. It's someplace in South America, Argentina, but it's like, oh, it's Montevideo. I just thought Montevideo was how you say that word, but apparently not. Write in if you're from Montevideo or Montevideo even. Okay, we have a Logan from Louisville, Kentucky. He wrote in. He says, "Hey, Ben and crew. A few months ago, my Destiny raid crew and I were trying to run through the new Leviathan raid, and we were having a horrible time. Especially myself, who was consistently coming up short in each challenge. Eventually, we managed to get to the final boss, and we all decided to take a small break and get a snack, use the restroom. I went to go pee-pee, and in doing so, I put my controller on the sink next to the toilet. My friends decided that starting the boss fight without me would be equivalent to starting it with me, and did so, causing my controller to vibrate wildly off my sink into a fresh pool of pee. I snagged it out of the pee, disgusted, but ran back into the living room and started playing the game because I thought I didn't have enough time to wipe it off. We failed. I should have wiped it off.
Oh, yeah, you should have.
Yeah, a whole new meaning to team wipe.
So they pissed that match away.
That's right. But we still love you, Louisville, Kentucky. God's country, as far as I'm concerned. I love it. Okay, Master Chief Spartan 117
From Louisville?
writes in. He says, "Don't make fun of my email again, please." All right. He says, "Hello, Hen Banson and the GI crew. I'm Chris from Odessa, Texas, and the Nintendo Online announcement this week really grinds my gears. I love my Switch and Nintendo, and they make some of my favorite games, but woof. Some of the big N fans out there have been driving me nuts with their apologist stance on Nintendo's terrible online functionality that they now want to charge $20 a year for. How anybody thinks it's okay to pay money for online services whose idea of voice chat is that smartphones, that their smartphone the customer probably has is completely absurd. And for those fans who try to argue that PS4 and Xbox One owners pay triple what Nintendo is charging and don't complain, that's because my $60 goes towards a robust online experience with built-in voice chat, social features, social hangouts, actual multiplayer infrastructure. I cannot be the only sane person who feels this way." So, Kyle, they announced in September, Nintendo Online, the big whole thing is rolling out. What does it entail? What is this thing like?
So you're going to be paying for online, so you can play multiplayer games.
Yeah.
And then the things that are coupled in with that are you can now back up your saves online, and then you also get access to like classic games. It's like the virtual console, basically.
They said, what, 20 at launch? Is that
Yeah,
right?
they
Yeah.
have a full list.
So what they have listed is it's soccer, my favorite game, tennis, Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, Balloon Fight, Ice Climber, Dr. Mario, Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Brothers 3.
And then the games that are multiplayer compatible will have some kind of online infrastructure. So you can play tennis, NES tennis online with people.
Which is pretty cool. And even beyond that, even like single player games like Legend of Zelda, you can play it and actually it still has online functionality where you can trade off play, kind of like a screen sharing situation.
Yeah.
Which is very strange.
Interesting.
That's not what I would have asked for, but
Yeah, not something I'm like, it's cool, but I don't know if I'll ever take advantage
I
of
hope
that.
they didn't spend a ton of time like, we got to get this feature in, guys. Put all your engineers on
Yeah.
it. Because like, I don't think they're going to get that many people
Who wrote
to
the
use
email
that.
again?
This is Chris from Odessa, Texas.
Yeah, I think Chris's complaints are totally valid. Like it's cheaper. It's a lot
Yeah.
cheaper, which is nice. But like the stuff that comes with it is pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
And the fact that like being able to back up saves is like a paid thing, like
insane.
that's troubling.
yeah, which
you
is
know?
I think that it's a paid thing for PSN and Xbox, I think, but you can also back up those saves in other ways,
yeah,
like through
the,
USB.
The issue here is that that's your option.
Right.
Like,
The only
They're basically
option.
holding your saves hostage
Yeah.
by paying $20 a year.
like my Switch fan is being really loud, like to the point where I'm like, oh, it might be time to like replace this. It's
Oh,
it's
no.
too late to go over to, but like I have to wait until this thing happens if I want to back up my saves. There's
That's
like
insane.
no other option unless I want to like buy a Switch and then transfer it over and then maybe sell
Yeah.
the old Switch or something. So Yeah,
You basically
it's-
have to get
That's my only option, really.
Yeah.
ultimately.
and make sure not to use your Switch on highways because then it could break down.
That's a great point.
I'm making a car analogy.
Is that right?
Yeah, sorry.
We got it. We're up to speed.
cool.
Well, Kyle looked very confused. so-
I was a little confused.
I'm still confused.
The classic games. Well, you're the one who has the worst car joke of all time. Go ahead, Reeves.
no,
How did that
it's
go?
a good one.
How does it go?
It's I've had a rough week this week. My car stopped working, so now I have to pay his half of the rent.
Okay.
Leo's laughing. I hear him in the
You know
booth.
what? You know what? I was skeptical, but then I heard that Leo chuckle from the booth, and now
That's right.
Turns out it's a
Yes.
great joke. So I'm confused about the library of games. This
Yeah.
isn't like a rotating thing like PS Plus. They're just constantly going to be expanding to this thing like a permanent Netflix style thing.
It might just be the launch lineup, I think.
Yeah.
But we'll see what their plans are for adding or removing games from it.
Okay.
I assume it'll be like PlayStation Plus, where like you every month you can add a couple new games to your list, and as long as you're a subscriber, you have access to all those games.
And just out of the gate, there's a shotgun blast of all these things.
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, which I'm into that. I think
I
think
want to play Balloon Fight, Balloon Trip mode on my Switch.
It
Yeah.
would like it will make me try out games that like maybe normally I wouldn't have even bothered to buy for $5 on the
Right.
virtual
Like
console.
this
you know?
Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
The biggest problem though is Chris's point was the fact that you have to voice chat through a phone, which
Yes.
I've
Yeah,
always had
yeah.
a problem with, and just Nintendo.
That's
fix
the
that.
last thing I want to use my phone for is talking to another
No,
human being.
I never want to talk to anybody ever on my phone. But the fact that you have to use this third party device to talk to somebody, I don't know, it just feels wrong.
There are some elements of it I like. I don't mind separating social like online sort of management to a phone.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I'm kind of texting people anyway to play online and stuff like that. But it's almost like too much of it has gone over to the phone. I don't know. I don't know what the middle ground is there.
It sounded like a
it's
big
such a
in
weird-
apologist.
Yeah.
here.
Right.
It's a weird solution because like you look at the Switch and there's no real port where you would see, hey, here's where I would hook up whatever voice chat thing, and the Pro controller doesn't have a port on it either. So they're looking like they just misread the hardware, I think, on that front.
Yeah.
And so they're
Yeah.
trying to find their best solution in software, but they should have integrated
Right.
it. into
They've
the
just
hardware.
been ignorant of this for like a decade. basically.
Ignorant's a tough word. Just
Well,
Stubborn, I think, is
Stubborn.
maybe
Yeah.
stubborn.
Stubborn.
Yeah, there we go.
because at this point, like they have to know.
For like since the launch, you've been a big proponent. Like you want a headphone jack on the Pro
Yes.
controller. That's like every day. You're like, Kyle, can you
Yes.
please email Nintendo? I'm like, I don't have
As
any
part of our
control over
daily
this.
meeting, I make our
don't know
our daily
either.
announcement that thing should have a headset. Headset port.
Repromotion, headphone jack. What sections do we have?
Everyone nods in agreement.
We had Reggie, like we had an opportunity to interview Reggie for the magazine. And you're like, make sure you ask him about getting a headphone jack on that Pro controller. I don't think he's gonna have it.
He had a lot of super specifics to get into outside of that. Like the Nintendo Switch is great for families and kind of good,
that's
juicy
important.
details.
Look,
like
this
that.
is what journalism is asking the hard questions, okay?
Right? Absolutely. Jen Hendrick writes in from Hamburg, Germany. Says, hello, crew. Recently I noticed that title screens of games I've been playing were a little bit disappointing. Breath of the Wild's title screen seems like a slideshow or something like a screensaver with no actual game footage. Super Mario Odyssey's title screen also wasn't that great. I see you've been playing a lot of your Switch. So what are your favorite title screens? Try to pick 2 or 3, or maybe try to explain them to the other ones at the panel without giving away too much. Try to have them guess. Let's just go with it. What makes a good title screen, and what are some of your favorites here?
I like the idea of trying to guess the game, but I don't know how you describe it. So that you're in Arabia, and you press start, and you zoom in on the character, and he's like,
Is it
I'm
Sands
going
of
to
Time?
tell you a story. And
See?
yeah,
That's
that's
fun.
it.
Wow.
What I liked about that though was the fact that like this is the first time I remember. I don't know if it's the first time a game ever did this, but you press start and like the start screen was the start of the game.
Got awarded it recently. Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
you didn't even realize you were playing.
I didn't even realize
Yeah.
because that was the game. Like usually you hit start and
Yeah.
it transitions to black.
You're
and
totally
loads up
right.
the
That's
game.
a
you
good
suddenly
title
realize you were holding a controller.
I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Another trend I love in title screens is the title screen that has like a landing shot, but it's still in game and it changes based on your save.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, and
yeah.
I'm struggling to come up with one, but a good upcoming example is like Days Gone. Right now, anyway, maybe it'll change throughout the course of development. Right now, the title screen is just like your bike on the road. And as you upgrade your bike along the way, it'll like change the look of the bike as you get started.
A lot of games also change the title screen after you beat the game to like something
Oh, yeah, yeah.
spoilery.
I want
Yeah.
to say Uncharted. Didn't some of the Uncharted games do that? Where they change the title screen throughout
I
the
don't
process?
remember. Maybe.
Maybe
But
I'm thinking of something else.
do you guys have all-time favorites?
One that comes to mind, which maybe we can play the guessing game with this, is
Yeah.
that there are curtains. It's just basically a shot of a
Last of
window.
Us.
The Last of Us. Yeah, I don't know why. It's really like
It's different.
it's kind of like just quiet And
Yeah.
like it sort of sets you up well for like this is going to be a dark adventure in a weird way.
Nothing says dark like a curtain.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like looking out over the sort of growth is like coming in. It's just
Right.
like
Yeah.
starting to be.
That is a really good
post-apocalyptic.
one. You're totally right.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Didn't Flower also have like a window
It
seal?
was like a window
kinda
sill.
like
and I
thing?
think that one changed over the course of
Wait,
the game.
yeah, I take back all praise for Naughty Dog. They just looked at Flower.
Dog,
You know,
come on.
I will say I don't really see start screens anymore. Just you see it once when you start the game.
That's a
but
good
Because you
point,
close your
usually-
eyes.
And that's because like most
Yeah.
consoles, you just resume from wherever
Yeah,
point you
exactly.
started from.
Which
But
is why I think it's weird that some games still do that, like rotating start screen. And
'Cause
sometimes
you'll
I'll
never
be
see it,
playing,
yeah.
I'll be like 3/4 of the way through the game and my like console will crash or like I'll shut it down or have to start over again. And then I notice that the start screen's different.
Right.
yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, who's this for now?
But then you don't even remember where it's like, was this always the title
Yeah,
screen? I don't
this
even know
looks
what the point of it is
different.
anymore.
I
Yeah.
st- I still think my favorite would be a tie between the. Well, I guess I have to play the guessing game. So the title of the game appears in Russian on the screen.
Metro.
No.
Tetris.
So and the
the
Sonoraz
Papers, Please.
Horse plays, and there's like a VHS sort of filter over the whole thing.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah,
Is it
Shadow of the
Pa-
Colossus.
Papers, Please.
No, Hotline Miami.
Oh, okay.
Because it looks like some sort of bootleg VHS that you've found, and it's like, oh, here's this
cool.
weird thing, and
Yeah.
then the other one,
That's good.
you have an album cover that is in FMV.
Brutal Legend.
Oh, yeah, Brutal Legend.
I'm so pissed
Yep.
I didn't think of Brutal Legend
That's
for this
right.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
That is
That's a
the
good one.
best.
Yeah.
It's the intro where it's like Jack Black, like, oh, I found this sweet album, come check it out. And then it's just going through the menu. Honestly, if you've never played Brutal Legend, which I'd imagine is 40% of this podcast audience, look that up on YouTube. That title screen
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
amazing.
And it's like the entire menu too. It's of
Yeah.
everything before you load the game up.
And
Also-
honestly, the first 2 hours of that game are really good.
Absolutely. We should do a game club just of the first 2 hours. And honestly, though, the Double Fine Adventure Blu-ray documentary, which I talk about too much, they do a similar treatment for like the live action menus, which is really great. Just, it's not much to look at. It's not that dynamic. But in terms of like setting a mood, I always loved Mass Effect 1. Especially more than the other Mass Effects, which have more like an action thing. Mass Effect 1, it's just like the Earth in space, and then just the dun,
that's good.
dun, however that song goes. Just a very relaxing, just like immediately gets you in the vibe to relax and think about
Yeah.
space politics. Just the best, you know?
Space
Krogan's,
politics.
those Krogans had it coming. Luke Chambers writes in, he says, Dear podcasters, I can see one cardinal difficulty with Detroit Become Human. There are human and android NPCs in the game, and the game's drama hinges on the question of what is it to be human? But in reality, you guys ready?
No.
In reality, all of the NPCs are AIs. So they're all basically androids. The only human character is the player character, who's an android. In fact, most single-player games have a simulation of what a human world would do if confronted with AIs that can, to one degree or another, simulate human actions and responses. Luke, I like what you're putting down here. Do you get what he's going for?
So he's saying like the commentary of the narrative doesn't work because it's all a digital construction.
Yes.
Like, okay.
And that the only human ultimately in the game is the android that you, a human, is controlling in that environment.
Will that game be thoughtful enough to explore
That is
idea?
also what he's asking. If like,
Oh, it'd be cool. Yeah, but there's no way.
how would you do it? Like, what would the scene play out like? Like here, let's just role play, right? So it's like I'm an android checking in on a crime scene, knocking on the door. You're the detective.
Hello, crime.
Oh.
Siri, look at it.
Hello?
Hi, I'm an android here. I heard you had crime here.
We've just had a crime recently. Come on in.
All right. Well, who are your fellow cops in the room? here?
Detective, there's more crime in the city. I just got a report.
no.
Here.
I hate it when that happens.
Do you want me to repeat that?
Yes.
Would you like me to repeat that?
Have you guys ever thought about who's ultimately controlling me?
Could it be somebody other than you?
PlayStation Eye camera
Is
does
it
not
the
work.
crime?
Hey, you unlock
All-
an achievement.
All turn to the camera at once.
My person who's controlling me told me to tell you all that you, humans, are the only AIs in this room.
We're all digital constructs.
What do you think of that?
Is God real?
No.
And then it brings up a Turing test.
That same game sounds pretty cool.
Boom, boom, a David Cage game.
Beyond human.
Wow. You
Oh,
did it, Luke.
all
Thank
right.
you for writing in.
Sorry about all the Beyond or the Detroit Become Human spoilers.
Couldn't remember the name of the game.
You can bleep that out, right?
Also,
Yeah, just edit that and make that better.
they called their name Detroit Become Human, which is very funny to me. Okay, Chris from Kansas City says, hello, GI crew. My online persona is Royal Pooter. At birth, my brother gave me the nickname Pooh for Winnie the Pooh. As I got older, Pooh got too childish of a nickname, so it changed to Pooter because that was somehow better. In middle school, I did the classic XX Pooter XX, and it remained that way until 2015 when the Royals won the World Series. Then he changed his name to Royal Pooter. My question is, how have your online names changed and morphed throughout your lifetime?
Oh man.
Here's what you got to do. Don't be creative. Come up with the word Yosetti in about 1997 and then write it to your grave.
There you go. That's a good idea. Yosetti's not taken. I've always been really adamant about not putting like X's or numbers. I always have to find something that's just like a solid phrase. You know, does that make sense? Like
right.
I anytime there's like an X or a number or something, it's like, you could have come up with something more creative than
That's
that.
why
Come on.
your username for years has been best of times, worst of times.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It was really band focused for a while early on, and then when we got into Halo, we had a bunch of weird names in Halo 1. We had Pooh Bear, which is funny that he brought that up, and Barbara Bush was one that was because it would just always crack us up when it was like Barbara Bush killed Pooh Bear on the bottom of the screen, and that's when and it was there that I started using the American Dream because it was like Pooh Bear killed the American Dream or Barbara Bush killed the American Dream, and then I've just been using the American Dream.
Turns out the American Dream killed Barbara Bush.
That's right.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Can't
Rest in peace.
I used to go by Jammin because that's like part of my name. And I
Oh,
thought it'd
really?
be cool if
Oh,
people called me
Benjamin.
Jammin.
Yeah.
And then I realized like maybe that's not a good nickname.
It's good. My sister used to
Jammin'.
call me Jam.
Oh, really?
I also, to be fair, early on, this is like early emails, I went with Benjo Kazooie off the Ben pun.
Oh,
realm.
that's
Yeah.
way better, I think.
I was really into Paper Mario and Zelda when I was young, so I went as Paper Link for a while. And then
good,
eventually,
though.
I stuck with that for a while. And then on Steam, since you can change your name at will, when I started playing Dota, I would just go by like random puns or whatever, like Flabbergastrate or Battlestar Galaxitive. And eventually, I settled on
These are good.
a pun. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but a pun of quesadilla and a massager. If you guys can think of that,
Massager?
personal massager.
Okay.
Hang on.
And
Let's
it
all
was-
soak this in.
It's a little
Can we
inappropriate.
guess your
Yes.
username?
Right into podcastingcam.com. You can solve his classic riddle. He's the troll under the bridge, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and then eventually I got a little uncomfortable, so I just went by Queso for a while, which is
But it still referenced dildos in some way.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay, cool.
Oh!
Mason Powell from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Woo woo. He says, hey, crew, my question today is simple. What in the name of all that is holy and sacred is Fortnite doing? I'm in love with this game. I've got well over 300 hours in at this point. I've been playing games since I was 5 years old. I'm 26 now, and I've never had a video game experience like this one. Twice now in the span of a week, both for the launch of Season 4 and for the Thanos event, I've woken up early like a kid on Christmas, giddy with excitement to see what's been added to the game. How is Epic nailing this so well and keeping the hype train rolling so hard and for so long? Leo, in the booth, you might want to chime in here. You've also fallen head over heels in love with Fortnite to a surprisingly late degree. What is it?
There's a lot. I think a big part is that they have a really great progression system and fun like questing, daily quests that keep people coming back. I don't know what other battle royale game is doing that right now.
What are the quests?
Just things like getting a certain amount of kills with certain guns, outliving a certain amount of opponents.
Okay.
There's a surprising variety to them, and it makes it fun to jump back in. And I think the other big thing is it's 5 seconds to get in a game. It's unbelievably fast.
Yeah, that is
That's
true.
big, I think.
And in terms of like how Epic's doing this, it is just amazing to think of that studio that was building up these assets, getting used to the tools for years and years and years and years, and now it's all hands on deck. Keep this system going. Like we hear about, the live teams. It's somebody like Bungie, where it's like, okay, even if they have 30 people on the live team, I think even that might be a pretty aggressive amount for a game like Destiny for just supporting. But when essentially it's, I don't
The
know,
whole studio?
I don't know why it wouldn't be essentially the entire studio at Epic at this point, like creating live content. No one else can compete with that.
And they are fast. Like there'll be a meme that's happening, and then like all of a sudden it's in Fortnite, like the next day. You're
Sometimes
like,
it even is in Fortnite before it's a meme.
yeah, which is
like
true.
Fortnite, like
it's like it
the entirety of
creates the meme.
Fortnite.
Yeah. Well, they have the time stone.
But I was impressed with the Thanos thing.
Yeah.
Actually getting him in there, just like working with Disney and actually getting him. I don't know how early they had to start working on that, but
In theory, not that much. They said that it's just because the Russo brothers are like, we like the game, so we made it happen, which you never know if that's corporate speak or not, but that's insane if that's how simple it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't think the Russos would be the final call on that. I think they'd have to talk to some Disney owners, but
do you think they're just making a model?
Impressive.
They just shuffle it like under the rug.
They're just modeling
Russo
every
brothers said it was
possible
fine.
copyrighted thing.
Oh, they already have it all ready to
Yeah,
go?
it's just like, here's Darth Vader, here's every possible collaboration we could have, and then we have it ready to go.
Like pre-written obituaries.
Yeah.
They just have like...
That's a really fun idea to think, because like I'm sure the people working at Epic are like, yes, I would like to model what Kit looks like in this game from Knight Rider. You know, just like the weird stuff. I know there's no cars in it at this point.
Why would you go with that?
The number one reference pop culture was.
famous thing
Fightful
alive.
from American Tail. I really want to put him in the game.
He's
And
really
then,
back
the
in the
second
consciousness.
the lawyer signed the paperwork, it's like, it's in. Like that's such a
Yeah.
fun idea. It's just like, and they keep it all. They actually keep all the characters then in just this crazy
Tank,
labyrinth.
yeah.
Just like, yeah, they're all. It's like what is that movie called where you see them all?
The
in there?
Labyrinth?
Oh, like
Cabin in
Infinity
the
War?
Woods.
I don't
Ready
know.
Player One?
They
No.
have the wall of copyright, basically. They just have
No, what is that movie where they go under the ground and
Sleepless
Sigourney
in
Weaver's
Seattle?
down there?
Reign of Fire?
Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods. Thank
Oh.
you. I'm sorry, world. Adam Dominguez says Fortnite has changed reality. Yeah, because they have the reality stuff. I'm seeing friends that have never touched a video game pull all-nighters with this thing. What is happening? Is this a new world? There have only been a handful of breakthrough games like this. I just like that Mason and Adam both wrote in with like the same tone of like, what is happening?
I'm scared.
Fortnite! Victor Pham writes in and says, so you know how Jimmy Kimmel has celebrities read mean tweets about themselves? You guys should read the YouTube and our website comments about yourselves aloud for the show.
Okay.
Leo, do you have those comments?
Do you have
No, please don't. I think about this all the time because I usually like to start my morning with a cool drink of water and just reading YouTube comments. And it's like, should
Your
I be
computer screen is wet from all the times you've done a
It's true.
spit take.
They often make me laugh, but usually when they're so mean, just because I'm a masochist, I think, and there's something kind of funny when people just really go over the top. It's like if it's over the top in some ways, I'll go ahead and delete that comment. It's like, quit attacking these developers and that weird, making fun of their looks, that type of thing. But I would love to do something with that. But at the same time, I don't want to encourage insane
Yeah,
comments
that's true.
or really mean comments.
Yeah.
And so I think it's best if you just dig through it on your own.
Give us your genuinely funny comments, and we'll read them.
Yeah, if they're funny.
Yeah, okay. If
And
they're
polite.
funny, you got it, man.
Act like Paddington. Paddington Bear.
That's my username is
Do you think he's-
Paddington Poo.
They've got him in Fortnite ready to go.
Absolutely.
Oh my god.
I heard that. I heard that. Seriously, I heard it.
100 bears
100%
descend on the
around.
island.
You think they would ever do a 100 player mode when everyone is just a different copyrighted thing? Basically, turn Fortnite into Ready Player One.
Yes.
Yeah.
I bet they will get
All
to
right.
that point.
Let's do it.
Honestly,
Kyle's working on.
are you sure there's
Fortnite?
not 100 IPs that'd be interested in that? Absolutely.
Oh,
there are.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Get some Ninja Turtles up in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Some of them, not all of them.
Oh wait, they're in Splatoon right now.
Have they
so-
have they ever held a gun?
The
Ninja
Ninja
Turtles?
Turtles? Probably in the comics, right? They're pretty brutal back in the day.
Do they have the
Yeah,
fingers
None of the
required
ones
to
I've
operate a
read,
gun?
but
Yeah, their fingers are gross though.
They-
Trying to fit them in a trigger. Ugh.
they are ninjas, though.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Henrik Mortensen writes in and says, hello, everyone. I replayed A Link to the Past here the other day as it's one of my favorite games of all time. But while I played it, I noticed something I do not like about the game, and that is that there are a lot of cracks in the walls that can't be destroyed with bombs, or anything else for that matter. To me, that seems kind of unfair, making you use your precious bombs on unnecessary things. Another thing is in the Skull Woods, where you have to use the fire rod on a specific thing, which does not actually make any sense. That made me wonder, are there any bad things in games like the following that you can criticize? You ready? Ocarina of Time. What's there to criticize?
Oh,
Too perfect.
too perfect. It's funny.
Water Temple.
Yeah, Water Temple.
People, yeah,
There,
water
I think
temple.
I remember there being like when I played it on 3DS that there were parts of the world that felt a little barren.
Yeah.
It felt like you were basic. It was like a series of destinations, and you never really found much along the way of just like.
But for that era, like it's so tough.
Yeah.
to
Right.
That's
But,
the
like,
thing
it-
is like everything's like based on era. It's like,
Sure.
well, like the combat's not really that deep, but it's like for the time, like
Yeah.
it had
Yeah.
a lock on, which like that was brand new.
Yeah,
like,
but I
can
guess
go
for me
backflip.
going back to it, it felt smaller than I remembered it. But
Yeah.
Riding, like getting an opponent to jump over gates is inconsistent.
yeah.
There we go. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Okay, Super Metroid.
It's kind of sometimes the animals that teach you how to do things. I remember having trouble with this the first time I learned. Like that's cool that the environment teaches you what to do, but sometimes it's a little obscured and like not clear.
What
Does that make
What
sense?
the hint is?
Remember
or-
that you could run really fast, duck, and then jump up really high? You don't remember that
Like
part?
learning that.
Just learning from the environment was a cool idea, but I think for me at the time, like
Stop
it
being
was
so
lost
subtle,
on me.
Super Metroid.
I remember
Come
the
on.
jumping.
And I'm
like
one of the
the
smartest people on stage.
exactly. I remember the wall jumping being a little hard to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the wall
back-
jumping and even the spin screw attack
Yeah.
was kind of hard to keep
can't
going.
say
And
that.
backtracking can be excessive.
Uncharted 2.
The
when I-
shooting is still,
Yeah.
That is true. Back then it was okay, but even replaying it recently on the PS4 version, I think it must have been, I found myself jumping off into my certain death so many times. Where it's like, I think this is where I'm supposed to go. Maybe just level design at times was a little less clear than I want. And maybe it works because it's not so obvious that there's glowing orange or yellow platforms everywhere. But I found a lot of like, I think I can make that jump. And then I jump and I'd be like, oh, nope, I die. And they yell Drake. Or like, I think I can drop down from this location and be okay. And it's like just 10 feet too much of a
And
distance.
then you still die and you still have the ragdoll happen.
And then Sully says, no, Drake! Thank you. Classic line.
The Uncharted 2 also does that thing which some games do, which is always frustrating. In that, like, if the gunshot's only fatal in a cutscene, like Nathan gets shot at one point, and it's
That's
like a
right.
big deal.
That's
but
a
it's
lot of
like
games,
I've been
though.
shot like 50 times on the
Through
way
each
here.
eyeball multiple times.
But it's always just kind of like this, like it takes me out of the story.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Henrik Mortensen also says, P.S. I'm from Norway, by the way. If this is the best email, just heads up, it's right next to Sweden. Yep, thank you. I got that. Everyone's a comedian. Here
I
we
like the
go.
new trend of people dunking on our geography skills.
They're welcome. Yeah, we'll read your mean tweets about that.
Totally.
because-
Billy from Gloucester, Virginia says, hello all. Not sure if there's a simple way to find this out. If so, please satisfy my curiosity. Which article on GameInformer.com is the most viewed of all time? My guess is Jeff Cork's well thought out piece on Star Wars, which you should Google. But do any others come close? Yes, that's not the number one
No.
article. I was confused. I had to go back and look it up. We revealed Dota 2, which I think is a big deal. Right, Serial?
Yeah.
When you saw that reveal, what'd you say?
I actually didn't know what Dota was back then. So
Oh, really?
I wasn't super like, I just
you say I'm
ran
gonna
over
work
on-
there?
But if like
I
Sully,
stumbled into Dota.
But if Sully was really into Dota and he saw that Dota 2 reveal,
Oh, Morphling!
all right, that'll do. But it turns out number one, like site or page that I can find is How to Get Married in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Written by Joe Juba.
Joe Juba.
2.6 million views on that sucker, which maybe. Across the rest of the internet isn't big, but I consider that crazy.
Google,
That's
like,
pretty big.
Yeah, Google grabbed that one for some reason. I don't know
Yeah.
what. Like, I don't know if we were just the first to kind of have that very basic headline online. That
Yeah,
I don't know.
It got that good Google grab.
Yeah.
And then Joe still considers that his crowning achievement.
He really does. He talks about it all the time.
I'm trying to convince him just to quit. I'm tired at this point. Like, yeah, man, you peaked a long time ago.
It's fun on YouTube. The number one video is, I think, still the Batman Arkham Origins coverage trailer.
Oh,
But
interesting.
Leo's Spider-Man coverage trailer is inches away.
Oh.
So I think it's going to take number one slot.
Batman versus Spider-Man.
There we go.
Interesting.
But go throw a ton of views at that Cork Star Wars story. It's very insightful. It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
it's very good.
Yeah.
Hello. This is Louise Me from Spain. Louise, you. I've been hearing, or more accurately, watching on YouTube you guys for a couple years from now, and finally wrote you an email. Thank you for writing in. I'm a proud user of the PlayStation VR since February, and have been having a blast with it. I don't know if I'm still in the honeymoon phase, but aside from a couple of games, Bravo Team, Arc Park, I've enjoyed every game that I've tried. Getting scared in Resident Evil 7, high-fiving with Quill and Moss, going extra fast with Wipeout, feeling like Neo in Super Hot VR, destroying demons in Doom VFR, were some incredible experiences that can't be found outside of VR. So I have to ask, why don't you talk about VR more on Game Informer? I was excited when you mentioned Beat Saber last week on the show, but I still think you should give VR a bit more exposure, since there's some good games coming out like Apex Construct, Knockout League, Sprint Vector, to name a few. What do you guys think? It's a tough spot because it's a specific niche, but I think from that Beat Saber discussion last week, I saw a lot of comments, especially on YouTube, like the pullout stuff, of people frustrated that like finally Game Informer's talking about VR, but at the same time, if we talked about VR more, and I didn't own VR, which is still very expensive, I feel like as a listener, I'd be annoyed because it's like listening to someone describe why something's immersive again and again and again. I don't know.
I mean, it's such a weird balancing point because you have to curate like super carefully because we have to come in here and talk about VR titles that we're super excited for. We can't just be like, yeah, maybe we'll talk about this VR title. They have a higher bar to climb in terms of like, getting coverage because I think there's still this stigma around VR of like, is this good enough for me to buy a VR still?
Right.
To buy any kind and for the people who have VR, that's frustrating because they want to hear more about games. But if we lean too much into that, people are just going to get frustrated of like, I don't have this. I don't care about this.
Yeah. Also, there's so many games coming out, and we don't have a VR editor at Game Informer. Like Kyle, you recently kind of tried to get caught up in some biggies, and I'm really glad that you brought Beat Saber to the forefront. I think that game is definitely worth highlighting.
I mean, it did reignite my interest in VR to a certain degree. Like, it's funny, my wife bought an Oculus like a year ago, but we just haven't had it hooked up. And it was Beat Saber with that like actually it was like, you know what, I should probably hook this thing up at home. Otherwise, I'm just playing stuff at work or taking a PlayStation VR home. And that, and like, so I played Beat Saber and I downloaded a bunch of stuff and I actually played through the Psychonauts VR game. Oh, so cool. I have like weirdly kind of stepped deeper into VR than I ever have before as a result of Beat Saber. But I mean, there's still like a lot of I'm still generally underwhelmed by VR. I really like Beat Saber a lot, but I mean, like a lot of those games on that list, they're like Moss. I liked okay, but there's just it's still a certain degree of like it's interesting, but I'm not. This isn't like everyone needs to go and buy a VR for this. There's nothing that has gotten me so excited. Beat Saber has come the closest.
And I'm glad it has that community that's super into it.
Yeah.
But like if any close friend is ever like, should I buy VR? It's like, no. Absolutely not.
Yeah. It's also for us as professionals, it's kind of hard to say like, hey, this VR game's coming out. It looks interesting. I guess I'll check it out. Like you can't do it at home because like most of us don't have VR headsets. And here you have to set it up. So there is, again, a higher barrier to climb to even start checking that stuff out.
But to that question, I kind of do see myself leaning more into VR and trying to do more VR coverage. I know like I'm taking a lot of Oculus appointments already for E3 and stuff like that. So I'm liking it more and more.
Yeah, for sure. There we go. Also, that Rhombus of Ruin, the Psychonauts game.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. It's basically a point-and-click adventure in VR, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Is it fun? Is it worth playing?
So as far as like a story for lead into Psychonauts 2, I don't think so. But there's the last, I won't spoil anything, but the last like 10 or 15 minutes were an awesome reminder of what I love so much about Psychonauts, which is like the opportunity to go into people's psyches and explore them. Yeah. And that was done well in VR. So
I still don't think I've played a VR game to completion. Have you guys?
Yeah. I've been on a couple of reviews, so I certainly have. Yeah.
I don't think I've beaten. No, I had to review Here They Lie when the PSVR
and you liked
came
it.
out.
You liked it.
I liked it.
I've got to review. I beat every song in Beat Saber, but I don't think that counts.
It's just one of those things where it's like if there's no game out there that I've been that compelled to like play all the way through, it's just like
maybe we're naive.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Jeff from Nashville, Tennessee says, "Hey folks, not sure if this has been discussed in the past. This is an interesting point. This is why I love the email section. This guy wrote in, good old Jeff here, and I was like, I've never thought about that, but yes, he's totally right. He's not sure if it's been discussed in the past, but the PS4 startup beep is awful. The little sound it makes when you press the power or eject buttons. I recently picked up an OG PS4 after having an Xbox One all generation. It's a stark contrast. The Xbox One's chimes are so pleasant and inviting, while the PS4 sounds like a freaking fire alarm. What do you think about the startup sounds?
Yeah,
totally, absolutely.
The other thing that bothers me about that is like it's impossible to like try to like move that console and like plug or unplug it without hitting that button accidentally.
Yes.
And you're like constantly ejecting a disc while you're like, I have it like sideways and I'm trying to like plug it in. My disc goes sliding across the floor and my cat eats it.
Well, my cat has actually turned off both my Xbox and PS4 just by walking by it. Like, I think
really?
Yeah,
just those paws out and press the button.
No, just their side will rub up against those touch sensitive buttons and it'll turn off the system.
That's weird.
It's a freaky.
I can hear him laughing at me.
Yeah, but that sound is aggravating. Like because you always turn on your system by accident and you're like, crap. Yeah. And so now I associate that loud beep
it's like an alarm
with doing something by
yes,
mistake.
I'm completely with it. And especially when like the default music on the PS4 is so relaxing and soothing. Why do they need to make it like that fire alarm chirp?
Yeah, and then it will beep multiple times to yell at you. It's like, you didn't turn this off right. It's like, well, if you hadn't turned on when I was trying to unplug you, we wouldn't have had this issue.
Do you think, and this is a little known fact, that actually Mark Cerny recorded those with his own voice? The architect of the PS4
I think, weren't those the same sounds also part of the PS3?
Maybe.
Ooh.
It might just be a generic beep.
Yeah.
You know?
I think maybe it is. Yeah.
Do you think they paid money for those beeps?
They just went into the public domain library and says, all right, we need sounds. And then this was literally the first sound. All right, drag and drop. We're done.
And on the obnoxious scale, it had 5 stars.
You can't contain it. Matt Thomas writes in and says, what's one game from any generation you've been trying to get the other editors in the office to try and they haven't taken to or haven't bothered with it at all? Use this time to make another case for that game. What are you recommending that people just will not listen? Number one, for me, Jeff Cork and the game that we never stop talking about, impossible to forget the name of, Not Drop Chord, Leo, help me out.
Mix?
Drop mix.
Drop
Good
mix.
God.
Oh, okay.
Drop core is the Double Fine thing. But Jeff Cork has not checked that out. It's like, dude, of all the people in this office that be into this crap,
Yeah.
That's you.
You just need to double down and buy him one and just. put it
that's
on his
really what he
desk.
says. We have an office copy, and he just won't bring it home.
Reeves, I have one for you that you always bring up to me.
Oh yeah,
Also.
I was going to bring that.
Do you know?
up.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
But
I
you
want
can't.
to make sure you wouldn't forget.
Make
Well,
the
unless
pitch,
it's a
make the
different thing.
pitch.
But I keep bringing it up. I keep every like 2-3 months. I'm like, hey Kyle, have you finished Quantum Break yet? Because he actually started it. He went on the cover story. He's a huge Remedy fan.
Yeah.
like
Is
I am.
he?
But clearly not as big of a fan as
I love
am,
Alan
but-
Wake and Max Payne.
Yeah,
and
and
Quantum Break is
he's right
there.
at the end.
I'm at the end
He's
of the
right
game.
at the end of the game, and he hasn't finished it.
What's
To be
wrong
fair,
with you?
To be fair, the last part of that game is maybe one of the worst parts.
That turns out. I also fell asleep in the middle of the TV show, the last episode of the TV show, which is a weak part of that game. I do not like that part of the game, and so the sort of the barrier for me to be like, all right, let me go finish Quantum Break is to sit down and watch a 20-minute episode of a show that I have no interest in watching.
You watch 600 episodes of some crappy Cartoon Network show every day.
Name it.
Ugh.
What is a crappy
Oh,
Cartoon
you watch
Network
Ball?
show?
doesn't deserve me.
Cartoon Network has some excellent programming.
Dragon Ball.
Except
Teen
for
Titans
OKKO.
Go.
Yeah, it's a great show. I love
Good
that
show.
It's
Come
a
on.
great
Come
show.
on.
All right.
Shut your mouth.
Okay.
Steven
Fine.
Universe, by the way, great recent episode.
Really?
Yeah, fantastic
All
show.
right.
Ahead of
You
its
can
time.
suffer through 20 minutes of whatever.
Yeah, I know. I should. I really need to finish it. I liked the gameplay. I just
Well, what would you recommend for people, Kyle?
I don't know. Probably I feel like Drill Dozer is the one I'm always wishing more
Oh,
people
yeah.
played.
We just don't want to, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I keep trying to get Reeves to play Age of Mythology, and he always seems positive and vaguely interested, but then it never really goes beyond that.
I did start it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I played like 10 minutes of it.
And?
And I loved it.
Oh!
Everyone here should play Owlboy.
Oh
none
yeah,
of you have.
yeah.
That's one of the games
I
that
bought
I've
it on my
been
Switch.
playing.
Reiner recently played it and was like, "Yeah, this is great."
Surrealism
That's why I
dumb.
downloaded it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is always one of those things. Like Hanson a couple years ago, he's like, "Man, this game Stardew Valley, you should really play it." And I was like, "I don't know if I want to play that."
Uh-huh.
And then it ended up being like my second favorite game of that year, or whatever. And like I obsessed over it. For
And what did
40
you learn
hours.
from that?
Hanson is always right.
That's right, Big Daddy.
There's actually another one. When the first episode of Telltale's Walking Dead came out, we were all like, really, whatever. None of us really wanted to play. We weren't that interested in it. But you were elevating it. You're like, everyone should check
really?
this out. And I
Oh, good.
remember
Wow.
playing it on your recommendation. I was like, Hanson was right. I'm glad I played
And I keep
this.
talking about Batman Season 2, the finale, but no one's playing. No.
But Beat Saber and Iconoclast are two that I've been surprisingly like pushing hard on.
I'll back
Yeah,
up
I played
Iconoclast.
both of those.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
Okay. Subnautica. I don't know. Everything. Also, not to throw Tim Turi under the bus, but I know he's listening to this. I don't know if he's dabbled since, but it's impossible to me that he hasn't gotten into Beautiful Joe yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I bet he would like that.
I bet he's dabbled
He
since then,
should do
just like
that.
trying to cover his Capcom bases,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, he should
I think he'd
absolutely
almost
play that game.
have to, right?
We also
Legally.
always
Yeah.
joked that Cave Story was made for him. I think we made that joke on a video once.
It's the type of joke where no one laughs at it necessarily, but yeah.
He would like that.
Yeah.
Tim, play Cave Story as well.
Mwah. Jake from Salt Lake City writes in and says, "Hey, Jake, I saw your article on Clueless Gamer's God of War episode last week. Wanted to get your perspective on the show. Personally, I don't understand why those in the video game industry fall all over themselves to be made fun of by these clowns. All these guys do is make fun of the game they're playing and gamers in general, yet the games media and publishers promote the show, give them early access to the games, or even invite them into their space for E3. Why do you think this is? Do you find the show as offensive as I do, or am I being too sensitive?"
I think that show is framed really well because the name of the show is Clueless Gamer. So like for us, there's this understanding of like, all right, this guy doesn't act like this guy doesn't know what he's doing, but you know he is sitting next to someone who knows about video games. But
Yeah.
sort of the idea is that if he hates it, that doesn't necessarily reflect on the game because he doesn't know one game from another. So if you're watching and it's like, oh, he's playing God of War, you can watch that segment and have him clown on the game constantly and still come away with like, that looks pretty nice.
Yeah, in terms of why publishers want to do it, it's good exposure. And I do think they're fun to watch. Like, yeah, some of them are dumb. It's like, okay, he's going to perv out when there's a girl on the screen. Here we go, Conan. I love Conan, but just like every Clueless Gamer with Laura Croft, it's like, okay, I wonder where this is going. Here's
It's
some
a
butt
little bit,
jokes.
especially this day and age, where you're like, I think he would be smarter than that, but
It's constant.
it's a little awkward.
But I mean, the views stand up. I mean, people want their game to stand out, and even like talking to developers who have their games on that show, it's like they're just excited because like, well, I grew up watching Conan. Of course, from a developer perspective, who wouldn't want to watch Conan O'Brien play that game. So if
yeah.
the publisher's going to fork over the cash or whatever to get it on that show, like, yeah, man, of course.
There's also, because they don't do it, it's not like a thing they do every day, and it's not like regular coverage. So the fact that they're even bringing it up kind of makes it notable of like, hey, if they're talking about this game, it must be pretty big. I should go check it out.
Yes.
Like, even if the entire segment is pretty negative on
even if it's a Final Fantasy 15 where it was like, just insanely negative.
I will say, like, there, like, for the God of War one recently, I admit some frustration over like Bill Hader being like, I don't want to play a game where I talk to my son, and it's like this is the new direction for games where like we're actually telling like interesting stories about personal relationships, and because it's sort of like their comedy focus, they're kind of brushing off that element of it for the sake of jokes. But I do like that segment. I like it better when it's Conan and Aaron Blair, when it's like an expert and a non-expert.
Get the celebrities out of there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. I like their
and I like Aaron.
Yeah,
we always
had
seem
him on the
kind
show
of fun.
before.
Yeah, there we go. Felix from Paris writes in and says, "Hello, Ben.
Hello.
It's on Equipe. You got it, dude. Hope it's not offensive. If you had to reduce all possible movements and actions in real life to the amount of buttons on a gamepad, what would they be?" Let's say it's a PS4. X would probably be use, so opening doors, turning on the oven, the two most common activities. but then what would circle be? Rolling? How useful is that?
Rolling.
I feel like circle would have to be mapped to sitting down.
Check your phone.
That can't be the use button? Just context sensitive?
Oh, okay. So like later adventure games, just universal use.
Because I'm like, if you walk into a bathroom, you just press square. Like, what are you going to use? And at some
Use
point,
the toilet.
Yeah, when you need to press the circle button, you need to press the circle button and not the X button.
Well, you'd be stuck, right? Because if you use a toilet, you walk up to a urinal and then flush it.
Right.
Okay. Like, no. Don't want to use the urinal. Hit it again.
You'd
flush.
grab it.
Well, here, real quick, start would be pull up your phone and look at your phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the screen would change. I always
touchpad would be look at a road atlas.
Yeah.
I always think about this with Jump, because Jump is like in every game.
Right.
And when was the last time I jumped like in real life? Why is that required in nearly every game?
I jumped when you told that killer joke about Cave Story and Tim. I thought that really made me think
really
that
good.
was a joke.
Also, if you compare...
You know what? For the record, I think you made the joke in that video. I think we were looking at the best Wii games. Go watch that, and we'll look at the Cave Story segment. And I think you said, Tim, somebody made this game for you. Why haven't you played it?
And then I looked at Kyle, grabbed him by the shoulders, and said, "Remember this joke forever." He says triangle would be to check what's inside your pockets. I don't know, Felix. I don't know.
Maybe.
And he says, but then you wasted a whole button on this.
Well, but you do need to grab your car keys at some point, or your phone, which I guess could be on start, but your wallet, your keys, stuff like that. Like,
well, I think it'd be like a Grim Fandango system, right? Where it'd be like open the inventory, and then you could cycle through everything that's in your inventory.
Okay, so that's how you get into your pockets.
Right. That's
So
step one
couldn't
for
you just map that
and then,
to like the pause button to like, hey, you open up your pockets when you press pause, and then your phone is one of the options.
well, then what's the go to sleep button?
I wish I had a go to sleep.
Quick turn. We need quick turn.
No.
Of quick
I don't
180.
I don't want to waste a button on a quick turn, Kyle.
Down on D-pad?
Down on D-pad and X at the same
It
time.
could be
double
say
tap
tell your
backwards.
loved ones you love them, or quick turn.
I'll take a quick save.
Quick save is
Yeah,
button.
you're telling me.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
But
good.
we
I like
need an open, a grab, a use, right? Those three at least.
Open, grab,
something
use.
blue. Yeah, I think you're right. I like the universal as the grab. Maybe this is just like an eco thing, but like the R1 for just like awkward physics grab, whatever, you know what I mean? But hold on R1 and then you can like control your arm, maybe.
Is there like a speak button that covers like hello?
Oh, language is a whole thing. I think let's just say that uses the microphone on the controller.
That feels like cheating.
And then is it like rad on PS2 controls where L2 and R2 are like left foot, right foot?
Okay, yeah. Well, R2's
God,
got
I
to be
hope so.
shoot.
Well, wouldn't that just be?
We don't want to forget that.
Yeah, that's
true.
important. That's important.
true.
Yeah.
This is impossible, but thank you, Felix. What a fun
How
concept.
are you going to play video games with that control scheme though?
Use button.
You've played Little Big Planet, where like Sackboy has the controller and the thing. It'll be just like that. I don't know how, but like that. Tim from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania writes in. He says, "Hey, podcast folks, I've been playing through Far Cry 5. My most favorite feature is the ability to pet your animal companions. I never knew how much I wanted to pet a friendly grizzly bear. Remember Watch Dogs 2 has dogs you can pet? As the Assassin's Creed games, what game does animal petting the best? I like games where you're a cold-blooded killer who will still take the time to give a good boy a little pet." I agree. It's up there with the ability to sit down on a bench for no reason, which Ni no Kuni 2 does, and I love it.
Yeah.
But petting animals, it's a bummer when they don't have it, even if it's very silly, and it ultimately is probably a waste of a button.
It probably, well, it's context sensitive. But yeah, I remember Assassin's Creed 3. I don't know why, because I don't know if it's the best, honestly, but I spent a lot of time just petting random animals in that game.
Like Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin.
He's an animal.
That is in the game. The Pokemon, the recent Pokemons have where you can pet every Pokemon with the touchscreen.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Oh, Kyle.
Fire Emblem Fates, you can pet every attractive person in your party. Pretty cool stuff, Japan.
Pretty awkward.
Yeah.
So weird.
I mean, the obvious is like the Harvest Moon, Stardew Valleys. Like anytime I can take time out of my day to brush a cow, pet my dog, and a little heart appears above them, especially like if it gets bigger and bigger throughout the course of the game.
Yeah.
Good games.
Yeah. There's that fight in Undertale where you have to fight the dog knight, and the object is to pet him, and it gets, the fight gets crazier as you pet him more.
That's right. Petting's good if it's consensual. Mike from Maine says, "Dear Ben and GI Crew, if George were to finally direct another movie,
Costanza?
Washington?
Which George?
George,
Oh.
were to finally direct another movie, would you rather it be a Star Wars story, a small drama like American Graffiti, or a whole new science fiction universe?"
Is there a fourth option?
Can you just direct some sort of Lifetime movie so I don't have to watch it?
You're such an animal.
I don't want him to create another sci-fi thing because then it's just
No.
been judged against Star Wars.
And you get in a THX situation.
And I think it's dumb, and he said in every interview, like, you'll never see it. But talking about like his freaky art films that he's filming now, I would love to see that stuff. I'm sure it's not good, but I think it would give the best insight into him. Like more than any 2-hour interview he's ever done, but just in terms of like what the core of that artist is. I want to see his freaky, weird, ethereal.
This is Steven Universe fan fiction.
Just like him dressed up as Steven Universe with a shaky cam on an iPhone. You'll never see my experimental films.
Hello, it's me, Steven Universe.
because they're copyrighted.
Squash you like a bug.
Man, yeah, I don't know. Drama, I guess. Let's do that.
I'd be for him directing another Star Wars though. That could be
Really?
fun. Yeah, why not?
What do you think he would want to do though?
Change everything.
I'm curious. Has he talked about what he thought of Last Jedi? I mean, how much input?
He's
did he
been
have
positive on both.
It seemed
After
like
he
would
called
like that
Disney
one.
white slavers, he was pretty positive on all the movies since then. Whenever people ask
And I'm
him.
curious, like what he input into Solo because he was there actually more so than the
Yeah,
other
and he
ones.
said like it was like day one of Ron Howard filming. George was actually hiding out under the floorboards in the Falcon. Surprise, Howard!
I didn't make the connection of about their relationship of him being in like one of his. He was in American Graffiti.
Right.
I totally didn't like draw that line.
And I bet they worked together on Willow to some extent. Yeah, Ron Howard directed that.
Did he?
Yeah,
he produced like a animated fantasy movie that was George Lucas. That had like awful reviews.
Really? You
Yeah.
thinking of Captain EO?
No.
Wait, was he in that?
He wrote Captain EO.
Oh no
George
way!
Lucas, yeah.
But I think he just produced it. But yeah, it was like an animated fantasy movie. I wish I could remember the title, but the reviews were very bad.
Oh, sad. We love you, George Lucas. You're a real doll. Well, here's a fun one. You guys ready for this?
No.
Ryan from the Vatican, who he calls God's country, unofficial. God's country has been wiped clean. No more Duluth, Minnesota. No more St. Louis Park, Minnesota, whatever the hell else we had. Nothing. Not even the Vatican is God's country now, according to the podcast rules. Ryan from the Vatican says, hey, please rank the following cuts by their depth. Are you ready for this?
Cuts by their depth. Okay.
Let's talk about video games.
The princess is in another castle.
Cuts.
Oh, I get.
Wrong
Okay.
type of cut.
That's
Okay.
pretty.
That's like knife wound.
That's
sword
pretty,
wound.
That's not deep at all. That's like a 1 or
That's
2.
10 is like gaping, like Nedry in Jurassic Park wound.
I would give
from
that.
the book.
I would give it like a 3 because they're
Really? Princess is another castle.
I would say
3.
I would probably say 2
think-
because
do
you
you
have
think
you
that-
have to know the game it is from because like I feel like
Okay.
a 1 was just like that's from Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. Okay.
See, I'm thinking like, does a mainstream? Do my parents know what that is? I don't think they do.
I think some people know.
Well, let's in the realm.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
giving it 2 roughly.
2.
What a save! I don't know what that means.
Is that
That
must
from
be a-
NBA
that must
Jam.
be a
sports
10.
game?
Yeah, we'll put that as a 10 because we're all very stupid.
It's Rocket League.
Oh, damn it! That's right. Like when you
Wow.
blow it,
So
the
it's
spam.
automatic 10. Like none
It's
of-
still a
like,
10, I think.
yeah.
That's
No,
still-
no. That I'll put it as 6.
I feel like there's a million games that could say that.
All right. All hail, King of the Losers.
10.
I don't know what that is.
I
Does
don't
anybody know what that is?
I don't know what
These
that
are all
is.
10s.
Error 37. It's like
Ooh.
a good 8 to 9. That's Diablo 3, right?
Okay,
like the
yeah,
launch
that's right,
error.
that's right.
Yeah, I don't know
I
what
think
that-
that's what that is.
Yeah, I would say 8.
Cake is a lie.
Like a
5?
4.
I'd say
4 or 5.
four sounds.
Four sounds good to me.
5?
Yeah. I took an error to the knee.
It's like
about
a
a-
3.
It's about a
Yeah.
3.
You think?
Missing no.
That's like a 7.
5 or 6.
5 or 6 is
Okay, hold on.
Serial
What's that
Weird,
from?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's Pokemon, the original Pokemon, the missing number.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like a
Pokemon.
Freaky ass thing. Yeah, Pokemon.
Or as Leo pointed out to me, he's the reason that Pokemon Go doesn't work ever, right?
Yeah.
It's just the whole time
That's
that's
a
been
funny
their plan.
idea. I forgot about in our Mass Effect Andromeda game club. I forget if I said it in the game club. But I still think it's a funny idea if BioWare just came out and said all the glitches are canon because Andromeda is like a freaky galaxy. It's still a
I like
funny
that idea.
Yeah.
That's
No one
good.
knows what happens to the human body when you're there. Our mouths get all weird. Okay, boy, I wish I knew this one. Bingo. Bye bye. I don't know what
10.
that is. 10.
Any,
Anybody know
Leo
what
in
that
the
is?
booth? I don't know.
Bingo, bye-bye.
Is that from Inglourious Bastards?
No.
Where he yells,
Well,
that's
I
a
thought
bingo?
it was all game
I
related.
think I don't
okay.
know. At Sunset Riders, somebody said "Hasta la bye bye," but I don't think that's this. It's dangerous to go alone.
That's
Oh.
like a 2.
No,
That's
like
a
a-
4.
In
That's-
gamer circles, it's like a 1, but
Yeah,
like
I would
in
say it's like
wider
a
world,
3 or 4.
nobody knows what that is.
Okay, and now I don't know this. This cave is not a natural formation.
That's
Is
just a
that
sentence.
You know that classic meme? I don't know what this is from either.
is that something like Gears of War when they
I
like
don't-
go in the snake?
I don't know. We all have to hand in our gamer cards. We don't know a lot of these. These are deep cuts.
Yeah, what about this like famous gamer reference?
Is that-
Hello.
Is that from Empire Strikes Back?
Oh.
Star Wars?
Oh God, is it?
It's what it sounds like, but
It could
I thought
be.
they were all like game related.
I'll give it. No, he doesn't say that necessarily.
Oh, okay.
So it could be an 8.
Yeah.
Uh,
If it's Star Wars, it's like a 7 or 8.
Yeah. God, that
but it's
probably
not
is
like
Empire.
these aren't the droids you're looking for like that.
Right.
that's
not,
like
not
a
that
It's like
level.
a 2 or 3.
That's it. Thank you, everybody that wrote in. Okay. All right, you jokers. Email of the week. What do you think?
I like the one where we're having to apply the controller to real life.
Oh,
Oh, you
that's a
did?
good-
Okay.
That's a good question.
All right.
I also like start screens, but I like that one better because it was
Start
such an.
screens
I
is
like
good.
those weird questions.
It is weird. I like title screens a lot. I like getting to address the Nintendo Online stuff. That was helpful, I feel like, for the podcast. Say bad things about these good games.
Yeah.
Basically, the roast, not bad. The PS4 sounds good,
I
detail.
like that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. I could
I'm
go
still
with
in real
button.
life buttons.
Yeah.
Real life buttons.
Yeah. we love buttons.
Okay, that's Felix from Paris, France.
I think they fought for the South.
You guys got that.
Then they say qua.
No, okay, all right, easy.
Are you worried that people are going to start writing in from not where they're from?
I think they'd want to represent their hometown, though.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you
Don't
think?
lie to us, please.
But the
But
guy
don't
wrote
lie.
in from the Vatican.
Right.
There's no way.
This guy's
that was-
devious plan to represent France on our board has gone over swimmingly.
Oh, congratulations, Paris, France. You're going to get up on the big board, officially sanctioned as God's country or whatever this is. And I can't wait to learn more about Paris on like next week's podcast.
Send us some
Yeah.
cheese and prove you're real.
yeah.
Prove you're real. Only cheese
Prove it.
proves it.
That's the
There we
only
go.
way.
Thank you so much. We'll put it up on the big board. It'll be down there or up there for next week. As for now, you guys, let's talk about E3. It's never too early.
Yeah.
Some of the craziest leaks potentially of all time when it comes to E3 happened this week, and we're going to dive in. So stay tuned for that. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm still here, now joined by Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
Kyle Hilliard. And Ben Reeves.
Hello.
Welcome, man.
Thanks.
Okay, what a weird thing. On Wednesday, this bombshell hit of, hang on, did Walmart Canada just leak everything that's going to be at E3 this year? And the office pauses and we inspect and we say, this. Normally you get a trickle of 1 or 2 maybe games. And in this case, it was a shotgun blast of, here's maybe E3 2018.
Could be the whole list.
Which is frankly why we even are paying attention to it. Because normally retail listings are like, oh, whatever. They're just like filling spots to get
Right.
ready for pre-orders. But there were so many, and some of these seem like they're ready for sequels. And yeah.
Well, it also gets, okay, there's a lot to dive into here.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe just out of the gate, because it, I think, sets up maybe this entire list in an interesting way, is Rage 2 is on this list from Walmart Canada. And then the weirdest part is like, what the hell? Rage 2?
That John Goodman game?
Exactly. But then the official Rage Twitter account showed an image and made some joke about it's not even in all caps. They're not spelling it correctly or something.
No, Walmart did it right.
Right.
Lowercase.
They fixed it. It's no anarchy for the A anymore, you cowards. Come on, Id.
I thought that was them giving it an A. They were critiquing the art, but then on the description they were like, okay, you get an A.
You
for
blew
that.
it, but the concept gets an A. But so is it weird? Because Bethesda tweeted back at the official Rage account, which has probably been dormant since, I don't know, BC era, I believe. And Bethesda said dude or something. So in a way, is that just the Rage account showing Rage account personality? Or is Rage hinting that, hey, this entire leak might be 100% legit?
That's what I thought they were doing, yeah.
It's really weird because in a way, they're throwing all other publishers under the bus if it is real. And what we want to say, whole thing, grain of salt. Just go ahead and drink the ocean. But it's a good opportunity to talk about E3 2018 in general.
Except for Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, the greatest game shows pack, which is exclusive to Walmart. We see that here.
What system is that on? Switch.
Xbox One.
Microsoft's scrambling now for their press conference. What are we going to do? How are we going to close that show?
We had Vanna White opening the show. Now we got nothing.
We had Trebek closing it.
And we're all Regis now.
Why are we talking like this?
Okay, there's a lot of fun stuff, and we're going to go through all these. But at the same time, reading through this list, my first reaction was, I love a good E3 presentation. And if this stuff is all real, I hate deflated presentations when creative directors or people go out on stage at E3 and they go well, I know it leaked this morning, but here's a sequel, everybody. I hate that tone. It's just act as if, man. Act as if people aren't reading the forums on the internet. And now if this shotgun blast is all real, every presentation is going to have some cheeky remark of thanks a lot, Walmart.
I'm in the other camp of just cancel your show.
We get it. We read Walmart's page.
We saw it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of flying out to E3 every year.
We're going to save so much money this year at Game Informer right here. This is going to be amazing. All live streams canceled. Okay, let's dive into the juice here, as they say in the business.
Starting today.
Yes.
Which business? Tropicana?
That's right.
Okay.
Let's shove a striped straw into this
That's right.
orange. So this is a list from Game Informer's story about this, which Kyle Hilliard over here wrote. First on the list, Tom Clancy's The Division 2. That's a good one, right? So they've already announced it and said it's going to be at the show. So it's interesting that this list is a mixture of things that are announced versus stuff that's not announced, which, Kyle, is there any logic to what you actually put in this bullet point list?
It was the order in which it appeared on the website.
There we go. So it's actually, it's going to be ranked by the Metacritic score as well.
To answer your question, I think these things are going to be revealed at the show with official box art and pre-order details probably. So I think this might be their kind of roundup of placeholder shells that they're going to fill in at E3.
It's like an advent calendar.
And they're probably thinking okay, this is all set. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
We'll get back to this in June and we'll make it live.
Just make sure I don't hit the wrong button.
Instead of...
Why is every publisher in the world calling me and threatening my family? What's happening? Okay.
I was curious about this. Is why do game developers even have to talk to retailers at this point? Is it just because
early
to get the placeholder?
It feels early. Can they just wait until the game's announced? Or is it they actually have to tell them 6 months ahead of time, hey, we want you to order 1 million copies of this game, but I can't tell you what it is. Is that how this works?
I don't know. I don't know. But I'd imagine it is because they want to push pre-order so hard that they have to have some infrastructure in place for them to jump off on, But The Division 2, that's probably going to be a biggie at Ubisoft.
It has to be.
Press conference. I mean, they've already said it's going to be there. Hopefully gameplay. Hopefully they cleaned up that dirty money or whatever the first division was about. Leo in the booth, I don't know, you played that game. But that's exciting. I'm curious to see what they do with it. Primarily, I feel like Ubisoft, out of any company, is the most exciting for I want to know where it's set.
Yeah, that's the internal conversations we have is what does the landscape of this game look like?
Yeah.
Are we still in the city or are we going more rural? I don't know.
You think they'll stick to New York even? Would they go to another city?
I hope it looks way different. I hope I can look at a Division 1 screenshot and Division 2 screenshot and immediately know which one is which.
Yes, that'd be nice.
My fear is that I won't. That they'll look pretty similar.
Ubisoft, between Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, they're good for globetrotting and coming up with unique environments. Yeah, so
the moon.
Yeah,
yes.
Hell yeah.
What's more dividing than a barrier of outer space? Next on this list is a real slam dunker, as they say, Splinter Cell.
Slam dunker.
This is what everybody wants, right?
Yeah, which is crazy that it's on here because so many people, which I was a naysayer, but so many people with that Ghost Recon DLC, they're like, you wouldn't get old Michael Ironside in there just to record this. And it's like, I could see that. And now apparently I have to eat my words.
What? Maybe. I don't know. Like,
It could be like Tobey Maguire. You don't know.
Right.
Toby.
It could
Also-
be. Well, yeah. It would make sense if he was coming back though, because he just did the voiceover and he wasn't even in the last Splinter Cell game,
Right.
which is weird to me. So it's like interesting to bring back the classic Sam Fisher voice.
It's-
But I'm down for that. I think it'd be cool if you brought him back and like he's like the new boss now of like a younger team.
Ooh, that's a super good idea.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's still Sam Fisher.
yeah,
He's
he's still Sam Fisher.
Come on out, little Kingfisher, my son.
Well, there's also, I mean, there's
I'm
also
going
no,
to be a fisher of men. Is that what he's?
the most dangerous fish.
there's no subtitle or number there. It could be like a remake or
Yeah.
remaster.
This is super important. So in this listing, there are a couple things that are super strange in the typo numbering department, which we'll definitely get to. So take, especially with a grain of salt, like the numbering or what this is. It could be. It's just called Splinter Cell in this
Right.
placeholder thing, but that's someone entering some data field somewhere,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So could be remake of the first game, could be called Splinter Cell. This is not a remake of the first game. We don't know.
It'd be an odd subtitle, but okay.
I'm game. What would you want the subhead to be called?
For
That's the question
what
that I asked.
gosh, I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, if you're gonna name
Siphon
the
Filter.
there you go. Splinter Cell Siphon Filter.
I got it.
Yeah.
Splinter
Solid.
Cell re-enlisted.
Huh?
Click, click, boom. Here come the boys. What I would want, just like lean into it. Just say like, hey, Splinter Cell fans. And just call it Splinter Cell : Ironsides.
Yeah.
It's already a cool word.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's in this one. It's just like the.
Well, no, Kyle. But, all right, the next one is the game
Wink,
everyone
wink.
wants to talk about. We're dying to get to it. Let's all say it on the count of three. Most anticipated game of E3 2018. Insurgency.
Last of Us 2.
Damn it, Ryder. Insurgency Sandstorm.
I didn't even see that.
This is a shooter from the publisher New World Interactive. Technically the third in the series, I'm told by a very reliable source named Kyle Hilliard, searching frantically before this podcast recording.
Finally, the next entry in the Insurgency series.
Yeah.
If you're looking forward to Insurgency, if you've played previous ones, please write into podcast@gameinformer.com and tell us why, because I don't know anything about it.
I guess it was a popular PC shooter that's finally coming to consoles. It was announced previously.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Kyle,
Bring
I don't
in
know
the
if-
storm.
If you know or not, but is it first or third person shooter? If you had to guess, what would you say it is?
Yes.
First.
Correct.
I would guess it's
Leo
third.
in the booth?
I think it's first. But Leo?
Okay, he's not.
Yeah. There we go. Last of Us 2, next on this list. I think we all expected it to be there.
Yeah.
I'm glad they finally announced it.
Not for $80.
Well, that's
Yeah, I don't know about the
They're all
pricing on this
$80.
list.
Well,
These
it's
are
Canada, baby.
Canada
Oh, that's
prices,
right.
Yeah. Like gouge you. Last of Us 2, Reiner, opening or closing the show?
Both.
Oh, it's like a Days Gone split.
Exactly.
The classic, the 710.
Interesting.
I bet they'll lead with it and then surprise us with something at the end, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning. Yeah.
Well, if we know everything that's going to be at E3 on this list,
Yeah.
what would they surprise us
They'll
with?
surprise us with Just Cause 4.
Maybe.
How about Horizon 1 Dawn?
What?
Sequel to Horizon Zero. The next
I was,
Well, Reiner,
it's not that hard.
one dawn. I was thinking that as one word. And I was like, what is a one dawn?
It's a type of bird, I think.
so
I thought it was like a euphemism for something.
in an abstract sense, is it possible that if this list is real, there's stuff at E3 that wouldn't be on this list? Is there going to be
Yeah.
teases?
That wouldn't have the pre-order stuff set up. Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Okay, so there's still plenty of room for mystery in terms of like the reveal of a new IP with just a word, a
Yep.
shadowy trailer.
If I'm reading into this correctly of why
Right.
this was created,
yes.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, optimistically, I even think this is just a very small portion of everything.
That'd be nice.
Well, if my theory of like this is just the stuff that we're pre-ordering for like the fall, maybe anything that they didn't have to tell retailers about ahead of time.
Yeah,
could not be on
2019
here.
stuff.
That's
This
true.
is what that Walmart employee did before lunch.
That's true. He wasn't finished with the list. He was still typing it in. He got to G.
Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh crap! Sandwich puking out. So Last of Us 2. Do you guys remember? Was it E3 2012? Would it have been with that amazing ending where it's like them slowly going through the house? I just watched this footage, by the way, for Days Gone reference.
This is for the original Last of
for
Us.
the original Last of Us, and it ends with
Yeah.
like him on the ground, shotgun blast to the face. Like that was such an impactful, weird ending. It was weird when people like super applauded and got into it, which I don't know is exactly what Naughty Dog went for, but in terms of like an impactful E3 showing, I have faith that Naughty Dog can pull out something amazing. Next one on this list is very interesting. Just Cause 4. Reeves, were you on that cover story trip with me for Just Cause 3?
Why make it another Just Cause?
Just Cause, baby.
Yeah, I was. Just Cause 3?
Yeah.
I like that trip. And the old Brian Vore.
Right. We have
Rest
no
his
idea. Like if this would be the New York studio, if this would
that's a
be
good point.
the Sweden studio
Or
making a new Just Cause,
Both
but
of them tag teaming.
back again. Kyle, what would you want from a Just Cause 4?
Oh, that's a good question. I just more crazy stuff. I don't know.
It's hard because like
Yeah.
what they do and
Like, cause I like flying
Yeah.
and like jumping from high heights, and they had a lot of that in 3. You know, like
Check.
yeah, in a weird way, like they have a lot to. They'd have to really do something impressive, you know, and crazy, like more destruction.
Multiplayer focus.
The moon.
Maybe multiplayer focus would be good.
because 3 didn't launch with the multiplayer mode, did it?
I don't even know
I can't remember how that worked.
if fans modded it or if they ever officially did anything with that. I don't believe they did.
I feel stupid now, but yeah, you're right. That probably would be the next.
Yeah,
If
that's
they had like a kind of a battle royale style mode with like just 100
It is.
people in there like bouncing around.
Totally. Like,
Yeah.
you know, people bemoan the idea of Battle Royale infiltrating every game, but Just Cause, I think, is one of the most exciting IPs if they did it.
But
But
it would kind of fit. You're
And
already
it kinda
jumping out
has-
of the air and stuff.
And it has
it's a lot of
unique-
jumping out of an airplane. Yeah.
unique angle to it with like the zip lines and all that.
Yeah. And also, like, on the 3 front, one of those surprising things from that cover story trip is them saying, like, oh, the story's actually a little more serious this time around. Like, it's not just more wacky, which was like, I don't know if that's what people want from Just Cause. So if they rebound hard even from that, and Just Cause 3 ended up being wacky enough for
Yeah.
everybody, and there was fun physics antics.
Just
but
go
if they
even wackier.
yeah, just really lean into it. Make this the Saints Row 3. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want.
There we go.
Saints Row.
How do you feel about a Destiny comment coming in?
Well, you skipped one. WWE 2K19.
and Dragon Quest.
I have a list that is from the site. You guys have a different
Okay,
list.
well, there's WWE 2K19,
Kyle,
which is
come on.
you know
That's later on the
We know
list you
that's
typed
happening.
up, Kyle. So your
Sorry.
criteria
So
is not
where
correct.
did you go?
So right now I'm at Destiny Comet,
Okay,
which is what they call their expansions,
sure.
which was leaked out a long time ago.
Or-
So,
Maybe there's a comet in the sky
and where's it hit?
over a map,
Yeah, go on.
and then it hits.
And Thanos crawls out or whatever.
Exactly.
But yeah, new Destiny content. That's interesting.
That's a no-brainer.
Final Fantasy VII Remake. You guys heard this? You heard about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I wonder about this, which again is just me reading way too much into this, is like, you know, no part 1, you know, anything like that. Like, is it no longer episodic? Hopefully. If
There's no way from this listing you can lead in that far in it.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
next one on the list just says Metroid Prime. So, you know, take all numbering and any sort of detail.
Totally.
Well,
yeah,
it says
yeah.
Metroid Prime 4.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, and
Kyle,
the-
in your write-up, you wrote
Just
Metroid.
use the other sheet that I gave you.
It says that down. But for the Final Fantasy one, going back to that, like, I wonder if this means that Final Fantasy VII Remake or the first episode of it is coming out this year.
Yeah,
Could be. Yeah.
It seems like
No
why
way!
why would they tell Walmart this early if
They
it wasn't
just
coming out
want to
this year?
get that bun in the oven. There's
What to
no,
what point? So they could spoil it?
There's all the rumors about like how Square really rebuilt that thing after they
Uh-huh.
pulled it away from the other developer,
Sure.
CyberConnect.
Okay.
Like, there's no way that's coming out this year, especially
Even
with Kingdom
ju-
Hearts 3 coming out this year.
If
there's
it's just
no
an
effing
episode,
way.
if it's just like one episode
Zero-
that's like 3
Does
hours
anybody
long.
want to take a bet? I'll give them 10-1 odds on that.
Hey, they made Fortnite Battle Royale in 2 months.
You know,
That's
take it
true,
back.
man.
And they're kind of the same game.
You're
And
right.
that's the other surprise is that Epic is working on it.
We get out a lot faster.
Good
with those.
done.
Yeah.
Okay, Metroid Prime.
Trailer?
I mean, there's probably 4. Yeah, and they'll probably show off more of it. But I don't think it's coming out this year. There's no way that game is coming out this year.
Yeah, I mean, if they have Smash Brothers for the big tentpole, people always overreach with Nintendo of what they expect and what they want. But
Yeah.
I could see Smash Brothers as their fall game, maybe tease of another game, and Metroid Prime 4 might be that tease for 2019.
What would
Yeah.
they tease that's not on this list?
Animal Crossing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe another Pokemon tease. Have a piece of concept art as opposed to just the president sitting at his desk this time.
Politely looking over at the camera. Oh, you want me to be working?
What if it's him at the same desk and in front of him is concept art?
Yeah, he's like, now Pikachu looks pretty much the same, I'll admit, but he's definitely in it.
Look at his hat. He's got a new hat.
But look, he's using Quick Attack.
Just shaking the
Look how
paper
fast that
around.
was.
Okay.
I'm excited about that.
Metroid Prime 4, super curious. In
Yeah.
theory, it's Bandai Namco.
The new company they just formed for this
Just
project.
keep remixing it.
Yeah.
Okay, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
I mean, they just showed a fair amount recently, which is interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't save everything for E3, but they showed kind of like a tech demo again.
Character creation, right?
Yeah. It's what you wanted from Beyond Good and Evil, right, Kyle?
And that was just last year.
Yeah, I hate Jade.
Just last year that debuted, right?
Right.
And it seemed like it was super
well,
early.
re-debuted.
Well, yeah.
That's
but
true.
with the monkey and all that.
They'll show us what's going on a year later. They have to.
Yeah, hope so. Okay, Rage 2. Where did Rage leave off? Wasn't there a bomb as a final boss or something?
It was a really bad ending.
Yeah.
It was a really fun game. Like, I thought that was a great shooter.
And in theory, if id's doing this one, that's a pretty quick turnaround because Doom was 2016, I guess, but Rage was a pretty big game.
Rage was like 2011, 12, right?
Right, but I
That's
can't
a while
imagine they would
ago,
have a split team working on a Rage 2.
Yeah, maybe it's a smudge. Let's see if it says Doom. Nope, it says Rage.
No, it's not a scratch off. That's just a piece of paper, Reiner.
Yeah. And the tweet just to talk on that again is weird that they more or less confirmed it, depending on how you read into that.
they're
I mean, they
cheeky.
gave Walmart an A+. So.
Maybe they're just so ecstatic about anybody caring about Rage again that the Twitter account, the community manager, woke up from a long nap.
Oh, somebody what?
Oh, what is this? Oh, make a joke. What was the tone of Rage, Reiner? I never played it.
It was Mad Maxy, post-apocalyptic, wasteland kind of.
Like funny?
A little, but it was more serious. Like
Okay.
zombies attacking, mutants attacking creatures.
It came out before Borderlands 1, right?
Yeah, kind of
so. 'Cause I
small open
Are
world.
you sure?
Yeah, positive.
Yeah.
Because I remember playing Borderlands and thinking, like, that's what I wanted out of Rage, was the original Borderlands.
Well, I think you played that backwards then.
I must have played them backwards.
Do you live as a Benjamin Button character?
That's right.
Benjamin Reeves Button.
Weird Rage. Welcome to the big show, Rage. Assassin's Creed, period.
Yeah.
Not time period.
Do you think this is a remake of the original?
So all it says is Assassin's Creed. And again, placeholder, as we'll get to
Salt,
by the end of the
salt.
list. Salt. Over the left shoulder. Is a remake of the original or a remaster the most likely option here?
I think remaster.
I think a remaster, and they keep adding on to Origins, maybe.
Both?
Yeah, like new DLC for Origins, and then this is maybe like their holiday Assassin's Creed title.
Yeah.
It's not annualized anymore with the new
Yeah.
entries, but they do have something for the holidays.
Do you think that first game is too rough structurally, where they'd want to kind of gut it and remix it a bit
I'd
if they
imagine
did
that's what they
remaster
would
it?
do. Yeah, I bet they would go in and change the experience,
Yeah.
They'd need to add some
but
side
still have
quests and
Altair and all that.
Yeah.
Because that story was
better
good.
story.
Sure.
Yeah, the story was cool.
My money was on just like an expansion for Origins, and that's what this means even.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah.
Like maybe like a standalone expansion.
Yeah, I think so. Especially like with all the tech they put into that game period, but then also that bizarre discovery tour where you can play as all the different characters. It's like they have to be doing something with that ability to be so flexible with the character animations.
So you think it'd be even in the same world?
I don't
They
know.
wouldn't even set a
Maybe
new
just
world?
a new little area, like the moon.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
spitballing
What
here.
if that's like the theme of E3 this year? Is just everything's going.
Every
to the moon?
publisher got together
Yeah.
like, guys, the moon's going to be good. It's
Yeah.
going to be huge this year. Did you hear about that Prey expansion? I think it takes place on the moon.
I don't think they even get together. I think they just all independently came up with the moon.
They were just all out of ideas and looked up at the night sky at the same time, and they all saw the same moon. Isn't that
And they were
beautiful?
all looking at the same moon together. Little did they know.
Now we get to the juggernauts. NBA 2K19, WWE 2K19, and then look at this, Dragon Quest 2, everybody.
Yeah, this is a weird one.
Does this mean builders too?
That's what I
Yeah,
was thinking.
that's what I'm
It
thinking.
must mean builders
Probably.
too.
Yeah.
Here's another theory. Maybe it's Dragon Quest 11, and it was like a 1-1, and someone thought that was Roman
Oh.
numeral 2.
Is that
See,
what
I was
they're
gonna
at?
say-
Are they up to 11?
I was going to say this Walmart and Play is super lazy. Just like, I'll put 2 of the 3 words and call it a day.
They've never even heard of Dragon Quest. There's probably a game called Dragon Quest, and there's 2 of them. Forget about it. Walmart, Canada.
They're from like.
Are they
Boston?
from Brooklyn?
Yeah. Oh, hey,
Boston,
Super Smash Brothers is on this list, folks.
Yeah.
But also, Dragon Quest Warriors, was that? Did they make more than one of those?
Yeah, I reviewed them both.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that Super Smash Brothers.
I asked you not to bring that up.
Super Smash Bros. On the list. Clearly the hottest S in a good way for E3 2018.
Yeah,
Can't wait to see it.
Brand new
Nintendo's
game?
had press releases that's already more or less saying like this is going to be our big game.
Yeah,
expect
yeah.
to see this at E3.
New game, that classic debate. Reeves,
what you want?
I think it's port added on to the point of the distinction is going to be blurry, but who cares?
I would like crystal clear graphics. I don't want it to be blurry. That's just my opinion.
I was definitely in port camp, but like the way that like in that press release that they released where they're like, this is our big one, like now I'm kind of leaning more in the fully new game camp.
I'm in the camp of what's the Smash Bros. Is my favorite series. What's the difference? If they add more than 3 new characters, call it what you want.
What if it's 3D?
That'd be
will
cool.
puke in my shoes and then wear
take
them.
off your shoes. Like Power Stone, Super Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Oh, yuck.
Do it,
I don't want that
Nintendo.
either.
I want to see the puke.
And you can play
We want handsome
two-player
squishy shoes.
on one Switch, right? With that tiny little controller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With each
that's what they'll
Joy-Con?
show in the video at least.
We
I'm
did it
sure.
with Brawl Out. It was
Yeah.
time.
You actually have to, what's that movie called?
Come on,
Not Shrinkage.
get to that punchline. Downside.
You have to
Downsize?
downsize yourself to play on one of them, but
Hey-o!
Leo, can you fix that in post? Can you make me witty in post?
You edit these, so.
Damn it, that's right.
Is
Okay.
the name of the movie Shrinkage?
No, I didn't remember. Sad thing is, I watched it today. I literally watched it today and I couldn't remember the name of it.
It's all right.
That's a
I like
weird ass
it.
movie.
I think it's cool.
a weird movie.
Borderlands 3. That's a weird one.
They've talked about that.
Yeah. Randy Pitchford, I feel like on a daily basis, takes a megaphone up to the roof of Gearbox and screams out Borderlands 3.
We're still working on it.
What was the what's the game that Battleborn?
Yeah.
I feel like they had like a Battleborn postmortem at an event, and it like, or it wasn't even out yet, and he was already talking about Borderlands 3 on stage. Like I remember this because I was like, I wrote the news story. It was like during the weekend, and there was this live streamer who was like, they were just on stage talking about Battleborn, and he was just like, oh, by the way, we've started on Borderlands 3. I don't know if you guys know that. And we're like, wait, what?
Well, also when he came on, I think Keeley's show, was it last year or something, to announce the publishing deal, how they're going to be publishing a
bunch of random stuff.
Bulletstorm,
right?
the Bulletstorm full clip edition or whatever. When he got on there on stage, he's like, "Hey, we're the studio that made we made Borderlands, everybody!" And then like the crowd roared, but it's like, man, they released Battleborn like less than a year before that. It's weird not to reference that.
That is weird, yeah.
Have they not seen Ready Player One? That game's going to go on into the future. It's going to be very relevant
Wait,
forever.
were there actually Battleborn
Battleborn characters in it? Yeah.
What?
It's wild.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in that movie.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You calling Spielberg wrong? You're saying Battleborn won't be huge in the year 2040? Borderlands 3, that's an interesting one if it's on a stage, right? I don't know who would be more likely at that point, Microsoft or Sony, to have it.
Microsoft needs
Microsoft needs it.
They do need that, and they could fork out the cash.
Yeah, I bet they would do it. I bet it would be on Microsoft stage.
Yeah, I bet they like sell one of their Forza cars just so they can pay for it. I don't know how business works, but I'd imagine it's something like that. Lego DC Villains. That's odd. So Lego Incredibles we know about, and that's going to be releasing the tail end of E3.
So there was a leak like 4 months ago that was Lego Incredibles and Lego DC Villains.
Oh, really?
Wait, it
Yes.
already leaked?
Yeah, so
I
to
don't
see
know
this on here then is like confirmation of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
See, it already
interesting.
leaked. They shouldn't fire this Walmart employee. I'm a designer.
All
You know
this
what's crazy?
information-
No Lego Star Wars. They did Force Awakens, but they didn't do Rogue One, Last of Us,
Or Han Solo.
The Last Jedi
of Us.
or the Han Solo movie. I figured
You're
you'd have those 3 games or
that
3
is weird.
movies.
Well, at this point, are they just waiting for Episode 9 to come out, and then it's just like the Star Wars crazy pack? Because it was pretty
Maybe,
sad
but
with Force
you'd think
Awakens
you-
where
you
they had to
could
go
get
back to...
2 to 3 games worth of this, but
Yeah,
Well, or is it possible that the Force Awakens one just didn't sell that well?
I think that's actually impossible.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure it
It just doesn't
outsold
seem like it'd be right. at
well, I just
all.
wonder if Disney was just like, nope, we're done.
with the Lego
Hey,
stuff.
forget about it.
Hey,
I guess they're doing
I got
Incredibles,
here.
but
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
true. That's true.
Maybe they had to pick or something. Yeah.
New IP called Dreams. I hope we learned something about what that's all about. But no, that's Media Molecules Dreams.
cool.
What can they? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's the weird ass sculpting, make your own game where you can do anything you want.
I've seen like a dozen demos of that, and I still don't understand what that game is.
I've seen a dozen demos of that, and I'm constantly left with how can they market this in the future? What type of trailer can they have where it's like, this is the trailer all about you can make an instrument in the game now. It's like, I get it. I can do anything. Like, just
See,
release the game.
the
Done.
thing is, you just never release it. You just keep bringing it to trade shows and showing new trailers.
Okay.
That's true.
And then you're done.
That's rude.
That's how you make a game.
Okay, this is where this list goes off the rails, and this is why the grain of salt is inflating. Forza Horizon 5. What does that mean?
They're gonna announce 4 and 5.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
Horizons plural? And
No.
on the sheet, it's on the site, it was Horizons plural. So that was a typo as well.
It's
Yes.
Forza Horizons 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it says.
I think, well, in Canada, I think they pronounce it Horizons.
Maybe they got one that we didn't get.
It gives some credence to the Dragon Quest typo idea.
Yeah, that there's a much more garish one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just Horizon 4 in theory.
Maybe it's called like Forza Horizon High Five.
That could be some
like a Windows 10 situation.
Right.
Five by
just
five.
skip 4.
Forza Horizon V is
Forza
the official pronunciation.
Horizon 1 Dawn.
Yeah. All right. I'm listening. I love Forza Horizon 3. I'm looking forward to this game for sure.
Yeah.
And it is. By the way, the timing is correct, right? Because like last
Yeah.
year was Motorsport, and then Horizon would be up to bat this year.
Correct.
can-
Okay.
That's Studio's game.
Yeah. Set your clock to it.
The one thing I'll say, I wouldn't put it past them to go right to 5 because Xbox went right back to 1 for the name of their system. So
Numbers don't mean anything.
They don't know how to count.
they have no idea what's going on.
If you factor in the teraflops, it's actually 5. We crunched the numbers. Next one, Gears of War 5. Okay.
Are they due?
I thought that Halo was ready
Halo's-
to pop.
It hasn't. By the way, guys, we haven't seen a new Halo game in 18 years. It's been a long time.
Fun fact.
I don't know if that's true, but I trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how long was that since the last Halo? That's a long
Halo
does feel
time.
it's
5
been a
was
while.
probably 2015,
Because we got
2016?
Gears 4 after that, right?
I think so. I think Gears
Yeah.
came the year after.
So why would they have Gears of War 5
Why would they
and not
do
Halo
this to us?
6?
I don't get it.
What's happening?
I mean, I'll welcome it. That's cool.
And
but
yeah, and maybe this is an example of it's just going to be, Marcus Phoenix being like, I'm even older, kid. And then just a logo, just something very simple.
Maybe it's him and his kid
loved it,
hanging
yeah.
out together like God of War.
Could be.
So 4, I mean, did it set up a new trilogy? So to
it
speak?
sets up everything. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like maybe they just had a better sort of road that they were prepared to go down. Where Halo 5, they're more reacting to mostly negative feedback. You
Yeah,
know,
maybe
like they had
Halo
to
5 is
shift.
being reinvented.
Or Halo 6 rather. Like,
Well, but at the same time, I think they planned 4, 5, 6 as a trilogy, so I'm sure
Yeah.
there was some rough roadmap, and they
Yeah.
can tweak it here and there according to feedback, but I don't think they're blowing it
Well,
up and
I'm
starting with a new one.
but I'm saying maybe they are, and that's why we're not hearing from it because 5. I don't know how it's sold, but I mean, I think critical reception.
If
was
they
pretty
stop
rough.
that storyline where 5 leaves off, that's
Yeah, what are
insane.
they going to do? That'd be crazy to not
know.
follow up on that. But
I don't know how business works.
People.
you don't know how. Wait, Kyle, did you even play 5?
No.
You're like one of the hugest like Halo fans, the original trilogy.
What does that say about Halo 5?
Yeah.
I played the first level and I was like, oh, good.
I think that's more about your life. Gears of War 5, that's surprising. That's one of the odd ones
I
on
want
this
it.
list.
That's
Yeah.
a good one.
Hey, E3 2018, I hope you guys had a good time. I really enjoyed my time at the show this year.
The Walmart press conference was amazing.
Wait for next year, Walmart E3 2019. Can't wait. On that note, definitely let us know what you want to see from Game Informer during E3. We definitely have some plans, but we're still loose, so you can write into podcast@gameinformer.com. Contact us all on Twitter. Let us know what you want in terms of content from us. We're going to do live streams for sure, commentary over it, podcast hopefully from the show. Should be a good time, but it's still a little bit loose, so write in, let us know.
Nothing is off limits.
Nothing.
Everything is
off
permitted.
Heard that.
limits, including Destiny comments. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you, Walmart, and thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have another new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.